to ESPN's Baseball Tonight. I'm John Saunders. We'll get you out to the first half of our doubleheader in a moment. Most of you will see the San Francisco Giants and the New York Mets. Some will see the Philadelphia Phillies host the San Diego Padres. But first, the trade news continues as we approach tonight's midnight deadline for players' postseason eligibility. Today, the Mets picked up second baseman Tommy Herr from the Phillies in exchange for two minor leaguers. Herr has 119 hits and 50 runs batted in this year. Also today, the Mets picked up right-handed hitting catcher Charlie O'Brien from the Milwaukee Brewers, again for two minor leaguers. And last night, the Mets traded a minor league pitcher to Kansas City for first baseman Pat Tabler. All will be eligible for the playoffs. Meantime, the Cincinnati Reds picked up second baseman Billy Doran from the Houston Astros in exchange for three players to be named later. Doran was leading Houston with a .288 batting average and was fourth in the league in on-base percentage. Houston also sent right-handed pitcher Larry Anderson to the Boston Red Sox. The Astros get a minor league third baseman in return. Anderson was 5-2 with a 1.95 ERA and 6 saves in 50 appearances this year. Teams have until midnight tonight to acquire players and have them eligible for the postseason. We'll keep you up to date throughout Baseball Tonight should any more trades take place. Obviously, no trade on the minds of the San Francisco Giants as far as outfielder Kevin Mitchell is concerned. He signed a 4-year contract extension today worth $15 million, about the same as teammate Will Clark. They trail only Don Mattingly and Jose Canseco as baseball's richest players. A reminder, it's Friday night doubleheader tonight. 10:30 Eastern time. Most of you will see the new-look Oakland A's with Harold Baines and Willie McGee as they take on the Texas Rangers. Bob Welch looks for his 22nd win for the A's. Some will see the Chicago White Sox and the California Angels. But your game is up next. The Giants and the Mets or the Padres and the Phillies. And we'll be here all night long on Baseball Tonight, so keep it here for Friday.
We're in the Big Apple tonight and just miles from the familiar skyline of New York City, San Francisco, and the New York Mets at Shea Stadium in Flushing. And the National League's Eastern Division has tightened up once again. The Mets are just now 1 1/2 games behind the front-running Pirates, while in the West, the San Francisco Giants have fallen even further behind. They have dropped behind red-hot Los Angeles into third place behind Cincinnati. Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Zabriskie, and along with Jim Palmer, we welcome you to our Friday night doubleheader here on ESPN. The Giants and the Mets and the New York Mets, Jim, are doing a little wheeling and dealing.
Well, not everybody else in baseball seems to be making trades. Pat Tabler will help them off the bench. They got him from the Royals. The key acquisition, Tommy Herr. He will play second base. Jeffries will move over to third. Charlie O'Brien to hurt the staff. And, of course, this is a ball club that needs to make some trades. They really have been treading water since they had that hot June. And, of course, they're very similar to the Giants.
They are. And as with all teams, pitching is the key. And tonight, Frank Viola against Don Robinson. Frank Viola has fallen on some hard times after a fast start.
Well, he has in a way. He had a tremendous start. They're talking second Cy Young, first in the National League in April. And Mel Stottlemyre, the pitching coach, will tell you that if you said he's lost 4 out of his last 5 starts, you got to be crazy because he's pitched very well, better than his record has indicated. These two teams also are very similarly offensively. If you look at the Giants, 13 and 35 when they don't hit a home run. Look at the Mets. They lead the National League in runs scored. And when you look at the night's matchup, I think it's going to be a very good one. Don Robinson will be on the mound for the Giants. And Frank Viola trying to win his 17th. Should be a good pitching duel, as Don Robinson's always tough against the Mets.
And let's check out the Sears diehard starting lineup that the Giants will throw against Frank Viola tonight. Brett Butler in center field will be leading it off. Right fielder Greg Litton will bat second. As usual, Will Clark, the Thrill, will be at first base batting third. The newly signed Kevin Mitchell, as always, in left field batting fourth. Matt Williams, the third baseman, really struggling at the plate, will bat fifth. Gary Carter, the former Met, does the catching, bats sixth tonight. Robbie Thompson will bat seventh and play second base. Rookie shortstop Mike Benjamin will bat eighth. And, of course, the pitcher Don Robinson bats ninth.
The defense behind the Met pitching staff, and it's been a good pitching staff, only a little over 2 runs. Strawberry in right, Boston in center, McReynolds in left. Around the infield, Jeffries moving from second to third, Johnson at short, Tuffle at second, Dave Magadan at first base, Todd Hundley behind the plate, and Frank Viola on the mound looking for number 17 to go along with 9 losses. Frank, a fastball, curveball, and changeup pitcher. There, the numbers are very impressive. Only 8 home runs, a lot of strikeouts, a very few walks. And when he is on, he will establish the fastball and get you out with a changeup with a curveball. And once you look for that, throws the high fastball right by you.
That's right. Making his 28th start of the season, and Brett Butler leads it off for the Giants. And the first pitch, a base hit into center field. Boston cuts it off as he was playing over toward left center. And Butler, the way he runs, had Boston not cut the ball off, that was extra bases easily.
Well, I doubt, Steve, that he will run much tonight. With Viola, a pretty good move, but fastball, middle of the plate. Butler, who hits so well against left-handers, in fact, usually better than he does against righties. And he'll tell you the reason is he never wanted to be a platoon player. He was afraid if he didn't hit lefties, he'd be sitting on the bench on nights like tonight.
So here's Greg Litton with Butler at first and nobody out. Litton hitting .240 with a home run and 17 RBIs. But he has hit only .188 over his last 11 games as Butler draws a throw.
I think Greg Litton will become a player kind of like Tim Tuffle, help you off the bench. In a perfect world, Roger Craig would rather have the opportunity to use him off the bench, and Kevin Bass, who's out on rehab with knee surgery, will be the regular right fielder in 1991. Litton last year playing a little bit around the infield, the outfield. Better numbers, but I think the fact is that if you get him in a situation where you can bring him in against a left-handed pitcher, you know he's going to be a fastball pitcher. He's going to be a better ball player.
And he takes low and away, ball 1. Roger Craig likes to do a lot of things. He likes to put on plays offensively and defensively. And he's got a situation here where he could do a lot of different things. Butler running, and the pitch is hit in the air to right field. Strawberry just short of the track makes the catch, and Butler will go back to first with 1 out. It could not be a more beautiful evening in the Big Apple. There is virtually no wind, as you can tell from the center field flag, and at game time, those are the conditions. A clear and fairly dry, which is a welcome situation in New York in August. Evening here in New York City.
Yeah, second perfect night in a row. Perfect for the Mets last night as they won 12-2.
Strawberry with a momentous grand slam home run. Will Clark takes low, ball 1. The natural hitting .286 with 16 home runs and 77 RBIs. And you talk about Litton and Butler and the difference between hitting right-handers and left-handers. Clark .321 against left-handers such as Viola, .260 against right-handers, and it's ordinarily, of course, quite the opposite for a left-handed hitter.
I've always wondered why, and if you asked hitters, a guy like Butler will say it would really relegate him to the role of a platoon player if he can't hit lefty. Clark, of course, is going to play against everybody. I think it's the fact that the ball comes back to you. You know, it's tougher on the breaking ball, but the fastball comes to you, where a right-hander runs up and away. I've always felt when I was hitting as a pitcher that the toughest guys were hit were the left-handed pitchers because they had good movement.
And a guy like Viola, who against right-handers will live on the outside corner of the plate. Bobby Ojeda of this staff, John Tudor, among others, they throw that little dead fish. It's got to be easier for left-handed hitters to hit against their left-handed pitchers such as that, rather than maybe somebody like a Steve Carlton, who had that tremendous breaking slider going away from him.
See, that's only 2 home runs since June 29th. Will say not seeing the ball as well as last year. Also, once you have an exceptional year like Will did, and also have that great playoff, the World Series wasn't that hot because of the great Oakland ball club. I don't care how good you are, people pitch you a little bit differently. A little more respect. Contract might have had something to do with it too.
This is true. And the other thing is that from a pitcher's point of view, a left-handed pitcher would certainly pitch Will Clark differently than he would pitch a right-handed pitcher, regardless of his style of pitching. Bounced up there, and it gets away from Todd Hundley. Butler's rounding second. He's going to try for third. In there.
Not a lot of foul territory here at Shea Stadium except behind home plate. Not as much as across the city and the Bronx or Yankee Stadium, where they hardly have any foul territory, but a huge thing right behind home plate. Looked like just a cut fastball, and Brett Butler, 37 steals. This will not be a stolen base, as that will be a wild pitch, but a very aggressive runner just in front of the throw. Not much that Hundley could do about that. Try to find it. It came off the screen, a couple of bad hops, and you have a two-base wild pitch.
That is the 9th wild pitch that Viola has thrown, and the count 2-2 to Clark. And he fouls it off. Still 2-2. 1 out, and Butler now at third.
I think if anything, if you were a pitcher in the National League or a pitching coach or an opposing manager, when you saw Will Clark against the Cubs in last year's playoff, you said, we don't ever want to pitch him out over the plate. Same with Mark Grace. So you make adjustments that good pitchers, good teams have to make. I think they're throwing him much more inside this year, trying to get him out up and in.
Another one bounced up there, but Hundley holds on to the changeup, and it's 3-2.
You're Frank Viola and your team scores 12 runs, and you see on deck Kevin Mitchell's there. You might think twice about not challenging Clark here. I think he ought to get a pretty good pitch to hit,
especially since we're in the first inning.
Yes.
There's no score. And it's ball 4 as it just barely misses.
He made a real good point about perspective, and when you're a lefty and you're used to establishing that fastball away, there's Bud Harrelson, the manager of the Mets, a changeup away, and all of a sudden, especially the right-handed batters, you send up a lefty. Most left-handers like the ball down and in. That's where you get the right-handers out. So Tommy John, a perfect example, along with some of the people you mentioned. Their out pitch was right in a left-hander's groove.
That's right. So what do? Well, you maybe struggle a little bit.
Well, you hope that Mitchell hits in a double play, and of course, if you're a Giant fan, you just hope that he lives up to that new contract. Bash one. Oh, excuse me, that's across the bay. Hit one.
Well, he can bash him with the guys across the bay. There's no question about that. Mitch with 30 home runs now, 79 RBIs, and hitting .303, having just signed that 4-year contract extension worth $15 million.
Well, you know, you talk about Kevin Mitchell, and you can talk about him just as you can Jose Canseco, who's making, what, $23.5 million, except for defense and foot speed on the bases. I mean, here's a guy that's hitting over 300. Canseco can do that. Certainly can drive in runs. Over 120 last year. We saw the 47 home runs. He's already got 30 this year. So he hit for an average, hit with power. Better defensive player. Doesn't really throw that well, but he can't run. And you don't have to when you trot around the bases.
And Viola trying to bust him inside with a fastball, and it's now 2 balls, 1 strike. Brett Butler at third. He got a base hit to lead off the ball game, and Will Clark walked. He's at first, 1 away. That changeup on the outside to a right-handed hitter. And it's 2-2.
Well, good pitch to a righty, especially when you get an aggressive hitter. Watch where it is. Those were the pitches he was trying to throw to Clark that he bounced. Again, if you're a left-handed pitcher and you want to throw that changeup, you feel like you're just going to drop it on the outside of the corner. The good arm action, which is what makes Viola changeup so good. It looks like a fastball until the hitter already commits himself, gets out there on that front foot.
He got him with the high fastball for the 2nd out of the inning, and a big one it is.
Well, Kevin Mitchell's such a dangerous hitter, but he does strike out a lot. You can see the big legs. You can get him to hit in a double play. So I guess sometimes if you want to get out of a jam, the one thing good about pitching against the Giants, they are very aggressive. Fernandez last night with 12 strikeouts. David Cone on the West Coast struck out 13. These guys will swing the bat.
And this is another guy who will swing the bat, Mac Williams, who has struck out a tremendous amount and has really been in a tailspin lately. He is 0 for 17 as he takes a strike.
That with 114 strikeouts. Well, you can just see, we'll have a chance to look at center field. I mean, this kid is having a great year, but look at how high his hands are. It's a long swing. Got a little better hitting the changeup. He's not the type of guy, Steve, that I believe chokes up with 2 strikes. Contact is contact for the fences.
That's right. Contact is a foreign word to Matt unless it has a lot behind it.
Well, second strike right on the inside corner, and that's what Viola is going to try to do. Establish that changeup down and away. And when he gets you looking on the outside corner, buzz the fastball right by you.
And he tried to get him to chase one, and it's 1 ball, 2 strikes. One thing about Frank, not only does he have the stuff, he has an idea.
Well, you pitch in the Metrodome like he did for about 4 or 5 years. You better have an idea.
In the air to right field. Strawberry with the easy play, and the inning is over. The Giants strand 2 in the top of the first with runners at first and third. No score. Welcome back to Shea Stadium, and as we go to the bottom half of the first inning with no score, here's the Sears diehard starting lineup for the Mets this evening. The center fielder Darryl Boston leads it off. Dave Maganin, also a left-handed hitter, will bat second. Greg Jeffries, a switch hitter, bats third and will play third base tonight. Darryl Strawberry in right field batting fourth. Kevin McReynolds in left field batting fifth. Howard Johnson playing shortstop. Kevin Elster lost for the remainder of the season. Tim Tuffle will bat seventh and play second base. Todd Hundley, son of Randy, will do the catching and bat eighth. And of course Frank Viola will bat ninth.
The defense for the San Francisco Giants, Greg Litton in right, Brett Butler, the fleet center fielder, Kevin Mitchell, the new contract in left, Matt Williams, great hands at third, Mike Benjamin, up from the Pacific Coast League, he's at short, Robbie Thompson, very dependable at second, Will Clark, one of the great players I've seen all year last night, he's a very good first baseman, Gary Carter, he's still playing behind the plate, and Don Robinson, he will battle you on the mound.
He's still pitching, too.
Yes,
That's almost as amazing.
Well, he's only 32, but he's had enough injuries for this entire broadcasting booth, and I'm talking about 5 other crews. Knee surgery. His problem really has happened early on. In 10 of his 19 starts, he's given up runs in the first inning, 20 runs, almost 10 runs per game if you wanted to take the first inning, but after that, under 3. So if you're going to get him, you better get him early.
And that has been the case with many fine pitchers throughout the years. Darryl Boston trying to bunt his way on, fouls it off.
And of course, you ask everybody, you know, you talk to the pitching coach, you talk to Roger Craig, you talk to this guy, you talk to that guy. What is he doing differently? And I talked to Terry Kennedy, who's not catching tonight, but catches against when right-handers are pitching against the Mets. He said he doesn't think he's got 5 pitches. He doesn't know what's working in the first. It takes him a couple of innings to really adjust.
Fouled off again, strike 2. A lot of guys change their warm-up, though, to a longer time or maybe closer to game time or farther away from game time.
Yeah, Jim Bouton took played catch 10 or 15 minutes or for 10 or 15 minutes, about a half an hour, and then did his 10 or 12 minutes. You throw behind the mound, do anything to try to get out of that bad streak you're going through. But basically a fastball, good curveball. Terry Kennedy says when he's got his curveball going, he can be tough. Throws a cutter, throws a split finger. Everybody does them. There's a little split finger that just tumbles. Good ones just go down.
Well, you have to at least attempt to learn it if you play for Roger Craig.
I remember last year Steve Bedrosian just over from the Phillies, second day out. Let's go outside and play catch, work on that split finger fastball. Does not attribute the injury factor to their pitching staff to that.
That one goes all the way through. It's 2-2.
Of course, you being the always questioning person would say, of course not. Why would he? Why would he teach it to them if it hurt their arm? But he said it. I mean, they've used 25 different pitchers. Last year used 15 starters, and Roger Craig says none of his pitchers blame that pitch on their arm miseries.
Base hit over the leaping Matt Williams. Mitchell up with it, and Boston trying for 2. He's going to be dead.
A goner, Steve. That's what we could call him. trying to score runs. We talked about a one-dimensional attack, but this is not one-dimensional. Daryl Boston right out of the box, thinking double, slices it right over the head of Matt Williams down into the corner. Now watch Mitchell. This is what really cuts it. Circles the ball because he gets a better angle this way. Doesn't have to backhand it. He knows it's a single here. Now right here you'll see him circle around the ball. Gives him a better angle on the throw, and then he makes a perfect throw. Robbie Thompson doesn't know where the runner is. Got to get the ball and take the tag as quickly as you can. Everything worked wide. Good hitting and better defense.
And you can't fault Boston for trying to take the extra base on that type of play. Mitchell just made a better play. So it's a single, but Boston erased. So Dave Magadan will hit with 1 out and nobody on. And he fouls one off the other way, as he is wont to do.
There's Darryl, probably a little winded. Of course, invariably what happens, Magadan hits the second pitch into right field, and everybody boos because they. But that's aggressive base running, and really, when you look at the makeup of this ball club, they got to sometimes not think station to station, one base at a time.
Well, since Bud Harrelson became the manager, he's tried to get them to be more aggressive in that regard. They have Dave Magadan, who does not run well at all. And other than that, on tonight's lineup, Tuffle, of course, and Hundley don't run well. But other than that, they have some guys that can really motor. Jeffries, Strawberry, McReynolds, Johnson. All of them run well. Fouled off, and the count now 2-2.
Yeah, I think later in the ball game, you might take a more conservative approach. But early on, why not?
Shot.
Yeah. I mean, you got to figure Mitchell, who's had leg problems. There's Bud. Asked him if he had a twin. Somebody in Baltimore said, I want to make sure, does he have a twin brother? He said, not unless there's an ugly guy running around. Very self-effacing.
It sounds exactly like something Buddy would say. Still 2-2 to Magadan. Magadan, of course, with a shot at the National League batting title. He's third right now. But interestingly enough,
yes,
Willie McGee, who was left the league to go to Oakland, could wind up winning it.
Well, he knows he's got at least hit over 335, right?
That's right.
That's what McGee left with.
And Len Dykstra, leading the league, also knows that. So you might say, well, now that McGee's out of the league, it's between Dykstra and Magadan. Not so. Willie McGee could, and it is, he would be awarded the batting title, in case you're wondering, if no one hit above 335, because he already has enough at bats to qualify for the title. Grounded to first. Clark will take it himself, 2 away. Shea Stadium, a symmetrical ballpark, and it is about average as far as today's ballparks go, as far as the distances are concerned. Interestingly enough, at their spring training complex in Port St. Lucie, every single one of the practice fields, not just the stadium at spring training, every single one of them is built exactly to the same dimensions as Shea Stadium.
Do they have one that is artificial turf?
They have an artificial turf infield with a regular grass outfield. Greg Jeffries hitting the first pitch to Robbie Thompson, and the inning is over. 1 hit, but nobody left in the first for the Mets. No score after 1. Thank you, John. Right here as we go to the second inning. The concession stands are busy as it is warm in New York. And the kid, Gary Carter, leads it off for the Giants, and he hits the first pitch. May have broken his bat, but he'll take it because he gets a base hit.
Now, when you're 6 for your last 52, your nickname's the kid. You'll romp down to first. Greg Jeffries, great. He says, you know, I'd just love to see that man. I mean, Jeffries only playing about a year and a half with the Mets, with Carter not being at his best last year with knee surgery. One thing about Gary Carter, very, very pleased with the way he's performed. He's thrown well, calls a good game. You know, not hitting like the Carter of old.
You and I were laughing when we mentioned that he was still playing in the lineups, because we talked to Gary before the game and kidded him about, haven't you retired yet?
I told him, don't get into broadcasting. He does that well.
He'll do well whatever he decides.
Give me another year.
You look at him as your replacement, do you?
No, yours actually.
Oh,
yes,
thank you very much. Well,
can you do play-by-play, Gary? No.
You can.
I'm only kidding.
You can.
I'm only kidding.
You take my job, and then
no,
I don't sit next to you.
Yeah, you'll get into the pharmaceutical business, gentrification. I believe it.
Come on.
No, we're having too good a time.
That's right. It's too early in the game.
This is a great time of the year, unless you're the Orioles. You've played poorly, but no, seriously.
Oh, it is.
It's a time where the pennant races are down, and even if you're a player, you look forward to coming to the ballpark.
The season starts tomorrow, September 1st. That's really the way you have to look at it, if you're a team in contention, that is.
I mean, look at for your Willie McGee. You get to go to Oakland. You know, they're trying to fight off the White Sox. If you're Harold Bangs, you've been down in Texas, even though they have played real well over the last couple of months. But now all of a sudden you're in a pennant race. If you're Tommy Herr, you're coming over to the Mets and going to have a chance to do what you did with the Cardinals, which is get into a World Series, maybe help it. Robbie Thompson knows. He was there last year.
Yeah, and once you've been there, you sure want to go back. Carter is running, and the pitch is inside, and Carter is safe. The element of surprise.
Well, they played behind him at first, so he just said, I'll go. And I believe that Todd Hundley could have thrown him out, but he got such a big lead. Now they're playing behind him. Magnan figured, no way. Look at the jump. He steals it really on Hundley because he makes a bad throw. Good throw, and he's out. But as you said, he was shocked.
Well, are you shocked to know that this is Gary Carter's first stolen base of the year?
Well, so no wonder it was a surprise.
That's right. That is not a shock that it is his first stolen base. And the count is now 3-1 to Thompson. And there's a drive down the right field line, but Strawberry had him shaded that way. Carter is tagging up, and he will make it to third. A hustling kid is at third with one out.
Well, if you talk to Gary Carter, he says, I still could have helped the Mets, making $2 million. Maybe they didn't feel that he fit in with their plans. A lot of youngsters, Barry Line, who's not with them, but right here, Strawberry makes a nice grab. Ball seems to be carrying to right field tonight. And because of the steal, runner, that's the lead runner with a no score at third with one out. So like we said, this is not a ball club that just takes it one base at a time.
No.
I guess they probably look at that stat in the paper, 13 and 35 when they don't hit a home run. Let's do something about it.
And that means let's do something different and not sit back and rely on the home run. Mike Benjamin hit his first major league home run this week. He was called up from Phoenix last Friday night. And he takes a strike. He's off to a pretty good start, hitting .364 with that home run and 2 RBIs.
The Mets defense pretty much playing him straight away.
Infield is in about halfway. Strike 2.
Got to remind you, if you got a chance to see Kevin Moss play, this looks like a miniature right-handed Kevin Moss.
I have not seen Kevin Moss.
Well, watch the
play.
knee flex. Kevin Moss, of course, is crushing the ball just across the city here with the Yankees. Similar. See if the result's the same.
Well, Benjamin has impressed. He had 5 homers and 38 RBIs at Phoenix, which was not phenomenal numbers. And so far, he has not seemed to be in awe. But he's out on strikes as Viola gives him that changeup in a perfect location for out number 2.
Just about every truly above average pitcher, and that's what Viola is, can strike you out when he has to. You may not think strikeout until you get a guy at third base with nobody out or one out. But right there, 2 strikes quickly ahead. You have a runner at third with one out. You go for the strikeout. You go for the juggler. Settle for a pop-up.
So Don Robinson, who has always been one of the better hitting pitchers in baseball, fouls it off for strike 1. Robinson's average this year is down from what it ordinarily is at 135. But he does have a home run and 6 RBI.
Can't help but think that knee surgery, the right knee, when he pushes off of, it's got to affect his hitting. 12 lifetime home runs. Well, he's 2 for 5 pinch hitting this year.
Yeah, when you have him pitching and starting a game, you really have 9 bats in the lineup. And Roger Craig will use everybody and everything he can to try to win. That's the amazing thing about last season. He deserves a great deal of credit because he had to do everything he could, and they were successful getting to the World Series. Boy, that pitch just does miss. 1 ball, 2 strikes, and Viola just didn't mess around. He was trying to go right after Robinson there. 2-2.
Yeah, well, Don Robinson, if you're the opposing pitcher, is not a guy that you just lay the ball in there. And his reputation has preceded him. No one knows how good a hitter he is.
Changeup grounded to third. Jeffries in on the high hop, gets him, and the inning is over. One hit, a stolen base, and one left in the second for San Francisco. No score after 1.5. He'll be leading it off, and last night in the 8th inning, he came up with the bases loaded and proceeded to drill one off the facade of the upper deck here at Shea. A grand salami. You think he knew it was gone?
Well, it appeared that he thought that.
Darryl sporting the high tops.
Well, they got some long distance last night, and we're going to see him all this inning. McReynolds, of course, he only got a base hit, but Hojo in the second deck with a 3-run shot. Of course, it's 6'6". He ought to have some leverage.
You know, I think high tops are appropriate for a guy who's 6'6".
Yeah, potential free agent.
Leading off for the Nets, number 18.
Darryl trying to break into the top 100 all-time on the home run list. And I'll tell you what, when this guy has his head together, he is as awesome a presence as there is in baseball right now. You can say all you want about Canseco. Canseco does it more consistently and can do perhaps a couple of things a little better than Darryl does on
batting
the field.
average. Yeah, batting average,
and maybe defense.
More consistent defense.
Yes.
I mean, Strawberry can make as good a play and make as good a throw as anybody.
Absolutely. When he is playing his game, he is probably on a par with no one. Hard shot to Clark, who stays with it. One away. Let's get an update from the Baseball Tonight studio and John Saunders.
Red Sox have won 7 games in a row tonight against the Yankees. Chuck Carey to Dewey Evans, and Dwight takes it way over the Green Monster and way back into the net. The Red Sox strike first. They're up 1-0 in the third. Carey has that look. You can imagine why. Back to Steve and Jim.
Well, we talked about guys that were doing it after all these years, including Robinson and Carter. How about Dewey Evans?
Well, not a vintage year from numbers-wise, but it seems like every home run he hits, of course, it's a little bit early to call that a key home run, does seem to be at a very key time for the Red Sox. And are they playing well?
Kevin McReynolds, bouncing back from a slump, has been hitting better of late, and he takes a strike on the outside corner, 1-1. McReynolds at 255, but he's hit in 5 of his last 6, hitting .346. Big curveball, and McReynolds says, I'll handle it. That curveball stayed up there a little too long.
Yes, it did. It fooled him. That's why he got it on the end of the bat. But you get a rare smile from Kevin, who says, yes, that was a hanging curveball. The change of speed kept it only really being a base hit. Otherwise, you know, if that ball is a little bit out over the plate, you get it on the good part of the bat, and you're thinking double or home run. But he's very happy.
So he's at first with 1 out for Howard Johnson, who's hitting .247, 20 home runs, 75 RBIs. The 4th year in a row that Hojo has had at least 20 home runs. Ball 1.
I mean, is there anything really he can't do? He's a good third baseman. He's moved to shortstop because of Elster's arthroscopic surgery. He hasn't made an error since he made that move, even though he did make a couple earlier in the year. Better hitter left-handed this year, home run wise. Steal bases already with 28 steals. Had some trouble with his left shoulder, but he says that's a lot better. We'll put some numbers on it.
Well, if he had a really hot September, he could get in the 30-30 club for the 3rd time. And when you consider the fact that Willie Mays only did it twice, you're talking about rarefied air right there.
I've always felt that that Howard, who started in the American League playing for the Tigers, came over when Walt Terrell went from the Mets to the Tigers. I always felt that he'd be a good average hitter. Never dreamed that he would have the type of leverage. If you're a pitcher and you get behind him already, Robinson 1-0, but if the count goes a little bit deeper, that's when he becomes a threat. And he's going to take the Toby Harrah helicopter swing. I mean, 2-0, he will leave Earth. Feet will come off the ground.
Yes.
He needs those high tops that Strawberry with ballast on them. I mean,
just to stay in the batter's box.
Exactly.
Well, one thing I've always said about Howard, too, is it's not an official Howard Johnson at bat unless he fouls one off hard somewhere. He seems to foul off a great number of pitches, and sometimes, more often than not, really pulls the ball foul in at least one instance during an at bat.
Well, that's why if you make really good quality pitches, you can get them out. I mean, last year, his best year average-wise, hitting a little over 285. But he's got a home run mentality. Want to get a good cut. Robinson is tough so far tonight because he's been pitching all the lefties inside. He has the kind of stuff to do that with. Good live fastball.
And almost, yes, they got it. Kevin McReynolds was leaning, and I was going to say he was almost picked off, but Robinson did pick him off. McReynolds appeared to be going, and you'll see right here.
Well, quickness, good throw, good tag. We've already seen some good defensive plays. We'll put that as a defensive play because Robinson, a perfect throw, quick tie by Clark. We've already seen Mitchell do a job for him, throwing out Boston, leading off the game as he tried to stretch a single into a double.
And a ground ball up the middle, and over there is Benjamin to cut it off, who was playing Johnson up the middle. The Mets have 2 hits, but they have only had 6 batters. No score after 2.
The preceding was furnished by Major League Baseball.
A little "Let's Go Mets" from one of the younger fans in attendance as we have no score at the end of 2 as we go to the top of the 3rd. And a reminder, game 2 of our doubleheader following this game. The Texas Rangers will be in Oakland to take on the world champion Athletics. You'll see Harold Baines and Willie McGee in their new uniforms for the A's. And Bob Welch scheduled to go tonight, the major league leader in wins for the A's as well. Texas at Oakland, game 2 tonight on our Friday night doubleheader.
Al Harrison, who in the front office for the Mets, every time they make a trade to Oakland, he says they're going to have the first $30 million salary structure.
Well, they act like they don't worry about it.
Well, they did with Darryl.
No, I mean Oakland.
Oh, no.
They said they don't worry about it. It does put a little pressure on the other teams, though. Brett Butler, who already has 17 bunt hits this year, takes the ball. Butler as a bunter. Get this. He's hitting .515 as a bunter.
Well, you know, it's not only the success ratio, of course, that helps, but the fact that he's done it 33 times, 17 for 33 times. Look where Jeffrey is going to play. We'll have a chance to look. And if you are the third baseman, when you have to come in, and he's playing on the grass, it's just so much easier if you're a guy like Brett Butler to hit the ball by him. But you got to do it early in the count. Doing 1 strike, they lay back. They go back with 2 strikes. Not too many guys are going to bunt.
Butler bunting. Jeffries charging. Won't get him. There's number 18.
Yeah, perfect play. Perfect bunt. Perfect defense, except why would you not make him hit the ball by you? You got to have that mentality that Pete Rose did with Mickey Rivers in 1976. Get up in his face. Right here, way back. Now he'll come in. He should try to throw it off his right foot. The only thing he didn't do that Brooks Robinson, the guy in Baltimore, did that got him 16 gloves is pick it up barehanded. That's not a percentage play.
Well, you have to remember, too, that Greg Jeffries is not ordinarily a third baseman. It may be in the long range view of things his best position, but he's worked hard to become a second baseman in the big league.
But my point is, why even let him think bunt?
You're right.
Play in and make him hit it by you.
Especially a guy like Butler, who has proven over and over again that he can do it.
Send down a stat sheet to the Mets bench. That's what we have to do.
Check that out. He's averaged 22 a season. He's got 18 now this year.
Well, just, I mean, he comes in tonight but hitting .292. What would he be hitting
without
if he didn't have bunts?
Right. And he's 2 for 2 tonight.
Now, I'm sure there are a lot of teams in the National League that don't give him the bunt. They just say, like Pete Rose did, hey, we're not even going to let you bunt. Don't think about it. If you're going to bunt, you're going to have to drag, not pull it down the first baseline.
Greg Litton flying out to right field his first time out, and way out in front of the changeup for a strike, 1-1.
But if you're a defensive ball club and you have the meetings Again, so like Frank Viola, you talk about how you're going to approach hitting him, what is his best pitch, what he's done in the past, but also defensively, you talk about how you're going to play the other team. If you're Brett Butler, if you're second baseman, Tim Tuffle, you're going to play a little shorter.
Foul out of play over the Mets dugout, and the count 1-2 to Litton. Butler at first with nobody out. We have no score in the top of the third.
Hitters will tell you it's so difficult to hit off a guy like Frank Viola or any good fastball change-up pitcher, because you say stay back, and then he throws the fastball by you. Then you say, well, I got to get a little quicker, and the change-up looks exactly like the fastball, and you're way out in front. And then he drops a big hook on you. Doesn't walk anybody, can strike you out if he has to. Tough to run on. Now you see why Viola usually around anywhere from 17 to 24 wins a year. Plus he plays with good ball clubs.
Yep. Last year when he first came over to the Mets, he didn't get much run support, however. There's that changeup on the outside corner, and Litton is gone for the first out of the third inning. Strikeout number 3 for Viola. Let's go back to John Saunders for another update.
We told you Dwight Evans' home run had given the Red Sox a 1-0 lead, but Randy Velarde, this is a 2-run shot into the net over the Green Monster, and it puts the Yankees up 2-1 in the third. Meantime, Sunday night, you can see the Yankees and the Red Sox as the Yankees try and slow the division leaders. Let's get it back to Steve and Jim at Shea Stadium.
Well, the Yankees and the Red Sox, even though the Yankees are out of it, always a great rivalry. That's Sunday night here on ESPN. As Will Clark fouls one off the end of the bat for strike 1. Clark walked his first time up. Butler was running on the pitch as Roger Craig, to the surprise of no one, had a play on. Out of play, 0-2.
You know, a lot of times, Steve, you got to help hitters by moving the runners, trying to open a hole somewhere with your defense, because they'll be trying to cover the base. I'm not sure you got to do that with Will Clark. But I think really what it's coming down to, they have so much respect for Viola's move, they have to start the runner and hope that the hitter will protect him. There's the quick move, just a snap throw.
And Frank appears to be on tonight, which means you got to try to do anything you can do to get a run, too, because you don't know how many you're going to get, if any.
Well, again, that's a different theory. If Gene Mauch in the old days, he would give up outs early in the ball game. Earl Weaver would say, hey, you know, you only get 27 outs. Why do we want to give one up early in the ball game? Mauch's theory would be, you're facing a guy like Frank Viola, you better play for 1 run.
Also, you have to look at your own ball club. The Giants have not been scoring a lot of runs lately because of the power outage they've suffered. So, as you mentioned earlier, Jim, they have to try some other things to try to score. Butler running, the pitch taken for a ball, and Butler is out of there.
Fifth time he's been caught stealing. Quick to the plate is Frank Viola. Todd Hundley this time makes a great throw. Good pitch to throw on. Out away, way in front of the bag, because the throw again was kind of coming up, and he made such a quick throw it didn't matter. Well, you don't like tagging the runner in front of the base, but he had no choice as the ball was tailing to right field. Quick release though.
And a good play by Johnson at the other end. And it's in the dirt to Will Clark, and the count is 2-2, but now with nobody on base.
Yeah, the guys that I played with that were the great infielders were also the guys that had the ability, like Aparicio, Mark Belanger, Bobby Grich, to make the quick tag. Well, that shows us he didn't get him.
No, but Hojo did a good job of decoying the umpire.
Yeah, it made him think he did.
He followed through with it as if he had made the tag. Clark grounds one to the right side. Magging it over, and a tough play for Viola. No. Eric Gregg says he did not tag him. And Viola might have tagged him. It looked as if Frank's glove did move.
Thought he might have beat the play. Again, I saw McReynolds smile. Now it's Will Clark's. You don't get a base hit here if you don't hustle. Viola a little bit late covering. This will make it close. I think he beat it. Looked like his left leg is on the bag. That's not probably the best angle we will show you. Well, that looks safe to me.
Yeah, he's safe. And here I think you really see it.
So even if you're Will Clark, you'll take those leg hits. Good accustomed to getting a whole lot.
Good call by Eric Gregg. And really, I think Maganin at fault for going too far over on a ball that Tuffle probably could have made a play on.
Well, you know, I kind of agree and disagree. I used to tell Boog Powell, who was a big guy at anywhere from 270 to 300 pounds some years. I said, Boog, take everything you can because I'm going to be there. But then we had a guy like Ross Grimsley who would occasionally forget to initially cover first. And if you have a first baseman that's used to one pitcher, you got to figure that if you get him, induce him to hit a ground ball, you better be at first base. That's what they teach you all of spring training.
Take nothing for granted.
Right.
Kevin Mitchell struck out swinging in the first inning, and the count to Kevin 2 balls, no strikes.
You know, your first instinct as a first baseman is to catch the grounder. And what makes you look bad is when your pitcher's a little bit late. That's what happened.
Sometimes errors of aggressiveness are more easily overlooked than errors of omission.
And what makes it really look bad if Mitchell hits a home run?
Well, here's what General Manager Al Rosen of the Giants said. He's a terrific guy and a terrific player. The contract is very fair, and it shows this ball club is willing to do what it has to do to reward its top players. And part of this, or partially in response to Mitchell's statement and unhappiness last year over the fact that the Giants, he felt, did not negotiate with him and give him the kind of contract he was due.
He did get a huge raise and he had a huge season, but Kevin has been known to be a little tardy. You know, they've had an ongoing battle up there in San Francisco. But Rosen knowing here's a guy that's had 2 consecutive, in fact really 3 terrific years. And at 28 you don't want to lose him to free agency. The Mets, they know what kind of player they had in Kevin Mitchell.
The other place I think that they miss Kevin Mitchell is in the clubhouse and the dugout. On the '86 World Championship team, he was an integral part of those intangibles that any team has to have in order to win. Shatters his bat on a roller to short. Johnson goes to Tuffle, and the inning is over. 2 hits in the inning and 1 left. No runs, however, and after 2.5, it's still no score. The Mets need to get going, as the game is still scoreless if they're going to do anything, but we're only in the bottom of the 3rd. Check this out now and watch the second base umpire, Jerry Crawford.
Second baseman, Jim Palmer.
He's trying to watch the ball and the play and the bat at the same time.
He grabs his right arm after the play. Viola, what set this up was a changeup that struck out Kevin Mitchell. He gets out of the way, the bat comes flying. That's what we literally called, he sawed him off. Changeups away, fastballs on the fist. Actually, looked like it was between his hands.
It did. Tim Tuffle leads off, and he hits one deep to left field. Mitchell going back, out of here. Tim Tuffle, who appears to be the odd man out with the acquisition of Tom Herr, homers that make it 1-0 New York.
I'll tell you what, you throw him high fastballs, he is one great hitter. He was visibly upset today when he heard the Tommy Herr trade. Number 7 on the year, puts him ahead 1-0. Up in the strike zone, he is going to hurt you. A great high ball hitter, was in Minneapolis, and had a chance to talk to him. They had told him he was going to play regularly, and 3 days after that, they make the Tommy Herr trade. He said, I guess I'm too good off the bench. Really played well for him in that capacity.
Todd Hundley with an infield base hit as Benjamin can't make the play. And is Tuffle going to be the forgotten man around here?
Well, when you play in the National League versus the American League, you can be a good fastball hitter, a good high ball hitter, and that's what Tim is. Well, came out of AAA for the Twins, went up there, played well. Ray Miller came over as the pitching coach from Baltimore to manage the Mets. He said, you can't play on AstroTurf. He's come over here and really played well for him.
Viola to bunt. Will Clark with a good play, and he will get Hundley, and they get the double play. Fine play started by Clark.
Clark made a play last night, Steve, where he knocked the ball down on a short hop and caromed towards second base, picked it up, and threw the guy out at first. Right here, this is 2 times his inning that Viola, he's used to American League Baseball, does not run. Bad bunt. Clark just picks it, throws it to the shortstop, Benjamin, and what a great relay throw. Good stretch by Robbie Thompson. Everybody did their job, with the exception of Viola. You know, not a good bunt, and boy, you know, the first thing is, I bunted one bad, and you kind of do it like a vapor lock, David Cone vapor lock, and you stand there. That's just long enough to turn the double play.
Well, the good teams also take advantage of the other team's mistakes, and the Giants turned that into a quick double play. So here's Darryl Boston with 2 out and nobody on. He had a base hit to left field and was thrown out by Mitchell trying to stretch it to a double in the first inning.
You know, one of the knocks that Jose Canseco had on Will Clark is that, you know, what does he just stand there and play first? We've already seen tonight you just don't stand there and play first base. I always felt that really, even though Keith Hernandez, not the hitter he was the last couple of years with the injuries and so forth, at first base you can be an integral part of not only fielding, but also you can be a pitching coach out on the field. You save your manager a lot of wear and tear of coming out to the mound, emotional distress, because you got a guy right there that knows the game. Had it in Hernandez, and Giants have it with Will Clark.
Good fastball from Robinson for strike 2, 1 and 2 to Boston. Well, you know, first basemen are either, there really seem to be only 2 types. They're either behemoths or they are outstanding fielders. You don't find a lot of in-betweens. Either have big guys with power or really good Wes Parker type. Matt Williams throws out. Darryl Boston to end the inning, but the Mets take a 1-0 lead on Tim Tuffle's 7th home run of the year.
ESPN Baseball Tonight, brought to you by Isuzu. For features, styling, and price, there's no comparison. By Wheaties, better get your whole grain, better eat your Wheaties. By Peerless do-it-yourself faucets. Peerless installs in no time, lasts a long time. And by Eagle Snacks, everyone loves them.
Matt Williams leads it off for the Giants and fouls Frank Viola's pitch back for strike 1. Williams flied out, flied out. Either one, I think, is correct, isn't it? He either flew out or he flied out.
Flew out, that means he leaves the stadium.
This is true. He
told
physically
that
flew out of the stadium. That's right.
Criticizing my play-by-play last year, of course.
Wasn't me. He flied out to right field.
Flied to right.
His first time out.
And flew back to California.
There you go.
And this guy can fly back to California because he's got that kind of power.
He's got the arms for it. 1-1, and he chases the high heat. This is what Matt Williams does to himself that has so far prevented him from being a great hitter.
You saw that 0 for 17, now 0 for 18. He does exactly this.
Well, you know, Frank Viola can make it tough because his changeup was clocked at 62 and that fastball was 89. This ball is about 9 miles in the air, and Darryl Boston will squeeze it 1 away. Well, this holiday weekend is just beginning, but we're going to end it in a big way because on Labor Day you'll see an ESPN Major League Baseball triple header at 1:30 Eastern Time, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. And then at 7:30 it'll be Oakland at Boston, and San Francisco will take on San Diego to round it out beginning at 10:30 Eastern Time. So 3 really good games on Labor Day for you here on ESPN. Gary Carter with strike 1. Carter with a broken bat base hit to center field, and yes, a stolen base. His first time up leading off the 2nd inning. That'll be out of play for strike 2.
Yeah, Frank Viola saying, hey, I jammed him, broke his bat, he got a single, I'll just stay away from him. If you watch Carter's stance, just watch him really dress the pitches of Frank Viola. Open stance, really wants the ball from the inside 2/3. There's trouble really protecting the outside part of the plate. There it is.
has always been the case. Carter has a very unorthodox hitting approach. Obviously, in many respects, over his great career, has been successful, so you can't criticize it. But it's not one that you would want to put in the Spalding guide and have youngsters emulate.
Well, it's probably a stance that works well for you when you're a little bit younger. The knock on Gary, and the only knock, is that he's gotten older, and he's an arm. Swings not with his hands, but with his arms, and just doesn't have the plate coverage. Can't drive the ball the other way the way he used to, and it's pretty much became really an inside half hitter.
Robbie Thompson with 2 out and nobody on. He lined out to right field in the second inning, and the count 2-0. 1-0. The Mets leading the Giants. Tim Tuffle with a home run. The only scoring of the game in the bottom of the third. We're in the top of the fourth inning. High fly ball to center field again. Boston drifting over into left center, and the inning is over. The Giants go in order in the fourth inning. It is the first time they have gone in order. Mets leading 1-0 as we go to the fourth inning, and ever since New York became a contender back in 1984, they have been very tough here at Shea Stadium. This year, no difference. They are the best home record in the National League.
Something like 15 left at home, 13 on the road. I guess they have some makeups because of the lockout.
Dave Magadan with a foul drive for strike 1. Magadan grounded to first his first time out. There's the Mets dugout.
Right there, number 34, Julio Velarez, who's going to be starting for the Mets, 10-10 at Tidewater. They have moved Ron Darling out of the rotation, and Velarez in.
That will be tomorrow night.
Some shockwaves here.
Ron Darling not happy.
No.
He has not had a good season, but he has done better in the bullpen than he has done as a starter, and the Mets feel like, why not use him where he's been most effective, regardless of how he feels about it. Magadan fouls another one off, and that's led speculation to the fact that the Mets may make another trade before the deadline, which is midnight tonight, and there's an outside chance, and this is speculation on our part, but there's an outside chance that trade could include Ron Darling.
Well, if it does, that will be a monumental trade. There's not a guy at 30. He still has a lot of years left, and you got to think he's got to have the most value of anybody that's tradable. Good pitch from Robinson, got him looking.
And let's go back to the studio and John Saunders.
Yankees and the Red Sox. Yankees up by a run, but the Red Sox threatening. Evans, who has a home run, with the single here. Ellis Burks is coming around to score, but Jesse Barfield from right field guns him down at the plate, and the lead is preserved. It's 2-1. Let's get back to Steve and Jim.
And as we mentioned, that's always a great rivalry, in spite of the fact that the Yankees are, to say the least, out of it. And that'll be the Sunday night game, 8 o'clock Eastern time. John Miller and Joe Morgan will be there in Fenway, historic, venerable Fenway Park. Greg Jeffries takes a strike, and the count is 1-1. Jeffries batting with 1 out and nobody on, grounded to second, his first at bat.
Yeah, he hit it hard, crashed a 3-run shot last night. That was his 14th home run, 5 for his last 9. Tied for the lead in doubles in the National League
with Len Dykstra.
Yeah, I got to think that he will actually be a better hitter at third. So many less things to think about playing third base versus second. Even though, as you pointed out, he's done a great job of making the change. I mean, from a limited standpoint.
Yes. And he did say, however, that he felt last year when he first started to learn second that his hitting went right in the tank because he just couldn't think about hitting. Trying to learn a position in the big leagues is very difficult. Foul outside first.
Well, the one thing he has to or seems to bring to every at bat, every ball game, is intensity. Reminds me a little bit of Keith Hernandez, and I pitched against Hernandez back in '79, but Keith seemed to take every at bat like it was a battle in the Civil War. I mean, you know, it didn't take it lightly. And I asked Greg, I said, are you as intense as you seem? He said, I'm able to relax. He said, I had an awful West Coast trip. And he said, but I don't take it home with me quite as often. He said, I hope to get better.
Greg Jeffries is from Millbrae, California, in the San Francisco Bay Area. And like a lot of California players that play for Eastern teams, when they go home, they struggle. Darryl Strawberry has never hit well in Dodger Stadium. He's from Los Angeles. Right to Clark, who was shading him over toward the line, and an easy out number 2.
He wrapped it again, little split finger that went down. Boy, Will Clark's having a busy night. He's so smooth. You know, you talked about Wes Parker. Wes playing for the first team that I ever played in the World Series, the Dodgers. He made it look so easy at first base.
Well, here's a straw man who also grounded hard to Will Clark. And he's going to ground this time to Robbie Thompson. And the inning is over. The Mets go in order in the 4th inning. They still lead it, however, 1-0.
I'm not going to talk until the music gets somewhere where I can hear it.
Mike Benjamin leads it off. Benjamin struck out swinging in the 2nd inning. Thought about bunting. Strike 2.
He's got to be a little perplexed. You do not see guys like Frank Viola in the Pacific Coast League. Only a very few amount of curveballs tonight. If you look away, he comes in. And the one thing, even if he doesn't throw a lot of curveballs, you know it's there.
Yeah, he just hasn't needed it yet. Changeup on the outside half, knocked in the air to right field, and an easy play for Strawberry. 1 away in the 5th inning.
It almost appears sometimes that when you get a good guy that can work both sides of the plates like Viola, that just making contact. I mean, not even, it appears that your hitters aren't even trying to hit the ball hard. They're just trying to get the bat on the ball.
Yeah. And the longer the game goes on, and the more guys come back to the dugout shaking their head, the more rear ends you see going one way and bat heads the other. Because everybody starts thinking about it.
Yeah, you go up there, you look for the changeup, and he buzzes a curveball and 2 fastballs. And then you go back to the bench, you go, why did I do that?
That's right. Don Robinson grounded to 3rd in the 2nd inning.
You know, everybody you talk to, they say we hit off the fastball. And otherwise it's been like waiting for the subway to stop, and all of a sudden it doesn't stop. I mean, that's if you look for a changeup, that's what the fastball looks like. You expect the subway to slow down, and all of a sudden it's gone by you. But convincing yourself to do that, and then being able to tell the difference between the changeup and the fastball. That's the difference between a good changeup and a bad one. You slow your arm up, the hitter, it's like somebody just put a red flag behind the pitcher's arm. It's something different, and you make the adjustment. When you can't make the adjustment, you don't have a chance.
Our dear and mutual friend Tim McCarver likes to call it looking for the local and getting the express. Viola, over the last 4 years, has led the pack among left-handed hitters, or pitchers rather.
Yeah, Browning's going to be a free agent. Higuera's a free agent. First, he signed down in San Diego. Langston, that's a little bit better. Well, what a struggle this year has been.
A surprise to a lot of people.
Well, the Angels, of course, also a surprise to a lot of people, not playing as well after winning 91 in 1989.
And the changeup finally gets Robinson, who had a good at bat in spite of the fact that he struck out. Let's go back to John Saunders.
Dodgers and the Expos in Montreal. Delino DeShields off Juan Samuel's glove. Goff comes in. Owen follows him. The Dodgers looking for the victory. If they do win, with the Reds' loss earlier today, they would be just 4.5 games back. Right now, let's get it back to Steve and Jim at Shea Stadium.
Thank you, John. Well, that race may be tightening up in spite of the Giants' fall, the way the Dodgers are playing. Even though they're trailing at the moment, they have been on fire. Brett Butler, with 2 out and nobody on, takes a strike. Butler's 2 for 2, a single to center and another bunt base hit.
Yeah, what would you say if you said you can play most of the year without Hershiser and without Belcher? If you were a Dodger fan, what would you think? Yeah.
You'd be in big trouble. Butler with a little swinging bunt, and it's going to stay fair.
Well, he bunted on purpose last time. This time, accidentally. So he's 3 for 3. Line drive to center, bunt base hit. And here's one of the few curveballs we've seen. It's the big curveball. And if you're Frank Viola, you only have one choice. Let it roll foul, if it will. Hold on.
That one needed a lot of help to go foul.
No, actually, if you pick it up, you probably throw it for a double anyway, so just let it sit there.
Well, the Giants now have 5 hits, and Butler has 3 of them. Greg Litton 0 for 2. And a fair ball off of Magadan, and Viola's not going to be able to get there, and Butler's going to third. In there. More hustle from Brett Butler. Runners at first and third with 2 out.
But he almost violated the Cardinal rule. Never make the first or third out at second base. At third base, excuse me. I'm saying first base as I watch the play. Doug Harvey right there to make the call. Good throw, but a better slide.
Harvey, the dean of the National League umpires, right on top of it. So a conference on the mound. 2 infield base hits after 2 out here in the 5th inning. And the Giants have the tying run at third.
Yeah, big break if that ball, if Magadan is not playing on the bag. That's a double, maybe even a foul ball. I'm not sure if that ball might not have gone foul. It looked like Magadan had to dive back into foul territory to knock it down.
But he made contact with it before it went over the bag, so regardless.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying if he's off the bag, right, whether it had been fair or not. But you do know, of course, you always be holding Butler on, but otherwise that ball's into the corner.
Butler probably would have scored easily if Magadan hadn't knocked it down. Will Clark is 1 for 1 plus a walk. He had an infield base hit. There's Bill Fahey, the Giants' third base coach.
Viola, one crisis situation. That was in the first. He struck out Mitchell. A couple of guys on. Here's another one, especially in a 1-0 ball game. Perfect world, you always get 4 or 5 or 6 runs, but it's not a perfect world. So if you're Frank Viola, you say to yourself, making a lot of money, this is what they pay me for, and if I'm going to win tonight, it might be right here. It might be this at bat.
Game situations don't always happen in the late innings. Sometimes it's the top of the 5th.
What they do in this ball club, talking about the Mets, usually Mr. Franco comes in. 30 out of 33 save opportunities. As good as Viola is, you sometimes got to defer to John Franco. That's why they got him.
Three and 0.
And that's why you sometimes go 3-0 on a Will Clark. You try to make the perfect pitch. You know he's too good a hitter. I mean, even when in a year where he's not hitting .330 like he did last year, only hitting right around .286, you better make good pitches.
Well, this may, pardon me, Jim, this may go back to what we were saying about him as a left-handed pitcher in his style. Maybe he'd rather face Kevin Mitchell than Will Clark. 3-1. How you would take the lesser of 2 evils there. Mitchell with the bases loaded.
Well, that's what makes the year that Clark had maybe somewhat explainable last year. He had Mitchell behind him, but how do you explain 47 home runs and 125 RBIs when you got Ernest Ryle? And Ernest has had a heck of a year this year. But who are you going to pitch to? Kevin Mitchell in the San Francisco Giant lineup, or the guy behind him? This year he's got Matt Williams. Last year only for a half a season.
A line drive, base hit to center field, and the game is tied. Litton stops at second as Boston gets to it in a hurry. But Butler scores from third to make it 1-1. Will Clark with his second hit of the night. He now has 78 RBIs.
Well, the one thing comes to mind when you watch Will Clark is rhythm. Not trying to too much, just like he did in the playoffs last year. Back up the middle, not trying to pull the pitch. Drive it back at the pitcher.
And all those 2-out base hits. There is no substitute.
Well, if you don't get a hit, the inning ends. Very simple. I mean,
there's no other choice.
No.
Mitchell 0 for 2 has struck out and grounded into an inning-ending force play. Off the end of the bat, a roller to second. Tuffle quickly over to Magadan, and the inning is over. But the Giants score a run on 3 hits here in the 5th inning to tie it at 1.
Left fielder, Kevin McReynolds.
Ah, yes. Get your souvenirs right here. Pennants and whatnot. 1-1 tie here at Shea Stadium. And this is game 1 of our Friday night doubleheader. Game 2 will find the Texas Rangers at Oakland. And Willie McGee and Harold Baines will be in new uniforms tonight for the Oakland A's. Bob Welch scheduled to be on the mound as well. That's right after this one. Game 2 of our Friday night doubleheader. Kevin McReynolds leading off the bottom half of the 5th inning for the Mets. Fouls it back for strike 1. McReynolds had a base hit to left field in the 2nd inning, but was picked off first base.
Don't see that happen very often. Excellent base runner, great outfielder. Tied with Joe Carter and Cal Daniels and Willie McGee for assists with 13 as outfielder. Not having a vintage year though.
No, he has really struggled at times. He seems to be swinging the bat a lot better over the last week.
Yeah, before that had gone 134 at bats without a home run. But he's a lot like Gary Carter. Inside maybe 2/3 of the plate. Doesn't hit the ball very well to right field. But while Carter's an arm hitter, Kevin Reynolds very quick hands.
Not quick enough for that pitch as he pops it into foul territory. Tough play for Clark, but it's going to be about 3 rows back. So it's 2-2 to McReynolds.
The reason Don Robinson can pitch up in the strike zone just as Frank Viola can ride that high fastball. Robinson, even though he's had the shoulder injuries, the elbow injuries, and knee injuries, his ball has life. Comes up there and you think it's just kind of flattened out, and just a little extra zip. And his competitiveness. There it is, another one.
Hit high in the air to left center field. Brett Butler calls off Kevin Mitchell. 1 away in the bottom of the 5th. Let's go to John Saunders.
Padres and the Phillies. Dickie Thon at the plate. Grounds this one to Templeton. Looks too slow for the double play. Roberto Alomar doesn't think so. Changes his mind. And that throw allows Murphy to come in to score and tie the game 1-1. But Bip Roberts has just tripled to score the go-ahead run. San Diego on top 2-1. Back to Steve and Jim.
Amazing how that ball made a left turn all on its own there. Just headed for the right field corner. Howard Johnson skies one to left center field, and Kevin Mitchell, playing him almost in left center field, comes in for out number 2. Hojo now 0 for 2.
Well, catcher Terry Kennedy talking about Don Robinson. He says another thing that maybe one of the reasons, of course, it didn't affect him tonight was the problems early on. He said he doesn't like to throw a lot of balls. He comes at you. I mean, that's his aggressive nature. But they call him caveman. I guess that's an endearing term.
And not without reason.
Right. But he doesn't want to throw a lot of balls. Why waste a lot of time?
No.
Pretty quick game tonight.
He's got the Bob Gibson school of pitching mentality.
What was that?
Bob Gibson, what the deal was, throw it up there and let him hit it.
Well, yes, but he threw it about 94 on the corner with a nasty slider. Right. And if you hung out and tried to hit the outside pitch, he'd drill you.
That's right. And so he said, why not, with the stuff I've got, let him try to hit it.
Opposed to Nolan Ryan. Here's a good fastball for the home run. Threw it well, but you just don't throw high fastballs to a guy like Tim Tuffle. There's another one.
Drives another one. This one, however, Butler should get to. He does. And the inning is over. 7-8 now in a row, retired by Don Robinson. Sixth inning baseball at Shea Stadium on a beautiful evening, a 1-1 tie, and Matt Williams, who led off the 4th inning, leads off the 6th with a swing and a miss. Williams 0 for 2. He's flied out twice.
Yeah, I was talking to Mel Stottlemyre, who's the pitching coach for the Mets, and he likened Matt Williams to Harmon Killebrew, Hall of Famer. Said the first couple of years, Killebrew did not hit the breaking ball.
Well, Matt Williams hit this ball, and it may have a chance. It is a home run.
I thought he caught it. I mean, of course, you never can tell with Kevin McReynolds. Looked like it was in his glove. You never show any reaction. Number 27, but go back to the point. He was saying his first couple of years, very much like Killebrew, could hit the fastball, but didn't hit the breaking ball. This year, he's made some adjustments. That was a fastball all over it. 2-1 lead. Moonshot.
Well,
very much like Harmon.
If that had gone as far as it went high, it might have made Flushing Bay.
390 feet up. 390 feet Only going about 370.
Now, what's got into Gary Carter? There's Matt Williams with his 27th homer.
Only 9th home run given up by Frank Viola. An awfully good outfielder. Just a little late getting up.
And he still didn't miss it by much. Carter with a line drive to right, picked off by Strawberry. Carter tried to bunt his way on the first pitch. Let's go back to John Saunders for an update.
Trouble for the Toronto Blue Jays. Bases loaded for David Wells. Felix Fermin pulls it into the left field corner. James comes in with the first run. Snyder follows him. Sandy Alomar is coming in as well. That's 3. But the ball gets away, so Felix Fermin comes all the way around to score. 3 runs batted in, and he scores on the error. It's 4-0 Stephen Jett.
Your basic almost inside the park grand slam there with the help from there. Here it is now 2-1 as Matt Williams gives the Giants the lead. And Robbie Thompson grounds a fair ball off of Greg Jeffrey's glove at third, and he'll be aboard with another infield base hit if they score it as a hit.
Greg talking about, yes, it is a 9th hit for the Giants. Talking about what's the toughest thing about moving from second to third. He said reading the ball off the bat and also being short, because if he's taller he catches that ball. Jumped a little bit early off his glove, base hit. 9th one for the Giants.
One out with Thompson at first.
I guess in some respects it's not that easy really making the move. Since, you know, everybody says third base a reflex position. You either make the play or you don't. That's not true.
Mike Benjamin fouls it back for strike 1. He's 0 for 2. And you know, they talk about the number of third basemen the Mets have had in their history, over 80 now. Look at the infielders they've had at different positions this year alone. And Tom Herr coming to the ball club will shake that up a little bit. Kevin Elster out for the season, having arthroscopic surgery on his right shoulder tomorrow. Also makes a difference. That's why Howard Johnson has been at short. And they are not nearly as good a club without Elster at short and with guys changing.
Of course, if they didn't have the injuries, Elster would have been the primary shortstop. Howard Johnson at third, Jeffries at second. And then, of course, early in the year with Mike Marshall, who's now with the Red Sox, going back and forth with Magadan.
Ground ball to short. Johnson will go to Tuffle and on to Magadan in time for the double play. The Mets turn their first. The Giants have turned 2, but a home run by Williams makes it 2-1 Giants. We'll help you read the sign here. August is ending, the Pirates on top. Before September's over, you bet they will drop. October is coming. The Mets will appear because 1990, it's their year. Burma shave. Wednesday's the night to find out, because the Mets and the Pirates are going to hook it up. Big series, and you'll see the game Wednesday night here on ESPN beginning at 7:30 Eastern Time. Our big Wednesday night affair, Pittsburgh and the Mets. Todd Hundley leads it off. He had an infield base hit in the 3rd inning. 1 for 1. 2-1 San Francisco. Bottom of the 6th inning. And a strike at the knees makes it 0-2.
Right-hander or left-hander on the mound, similar styles, throw it over. Viola with a changeup. Robinson with a split finger, and then a curve ball every once in a while.
That is the first strike, no, pardon me, the second strikeout for Robinson, and that was textbook good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
Yeah, set up the fastball and then hooked him. Dave Magadan, the other strikeout, Vickim. Take a look at the double play, made him reach for it right here. Howard Johnson to Tuffle. Doesn't really make a good throw in the sense that he was balanced.
Well, the Mets are not known for their defense, and among the chinks in the armor, shall we say, of this team that has been a contender since '84, this year has been the spotty bullpen at times, especially middle relief, because Franco's been great, and the bench, and of course their defense has been a problem for them for a number of years.
9th in fielding percentage. That doesn't always tell a true story. It tells you not a real good ball club. They've made 107 errors. Giants, of course, in 3rd, only 91, and Cincinnati with 81. A major difference. If I just off the top of your head, you look at Cincinnati and you look at the teams that have played better defense. Montreal, better speed.
Here's a weak hack by Frankie. This is not the way to do it, folks. No, no.
That's a good analysis of that swing. I like that.
But he did foul it off.
Yeah,
much to Gary Carter's dismay, however.
Surprised he just shrugged his shoulders.
There's another weak hack, but he makes contact. Tough play. Thompson gets him, however. 2 out in the 6th.
Did they hit at St. John's?
Apparently not.
Frank not having a good night with the legs. This has infield hit written all over it. Unfortunately, Robbie Thompson's playing second and Frank Viola's running. You know, really, you have mixed messages. You're trailing by 1. You want to save yourself, even though it's a cool night. Do you run it out? You leg out the base hit because you know your batting average needs it. Or do you just say, okay, 4-3, let's go back to the dugout? It kind of was somewhere in between.
Yeah, it had base hit written all over it, but unfortunately it was written in a language that Frank can't read. So here's Darrell Boston. He is 1 for 2. Had a base hit to left in the 1st inning.
Yeah, Frank not liking what he sees on the scoreboard, even though it's early. He lost 2-1 in his last start to the Cardinals.
High and away, 2-0. Don Robinson has only thrown 59 pitches. We're in the 6th inning, and that's not many.
Those pitchers 12 to 15, sometimes as high as 18.
Line drive, base hit into center field.
Second base hit for Darrell Boston. Started off with a single lead off the game, and then outstanding throw by Kevin Mitchell cut him down at second. The point to make here is when are they getting the hits? With 2 outs. You know, I'm thinking maybe that Don Robinson, he'd rather have Magadan come up now than lead off an inning. Great. I mean, it sounds far-fetched, but I'll tell you what, sometimes if you're command of your pitching, you know, you go after the hitter, and if you do have to face Magadan, who is 3rd in the league with on-base percentage, you'd rather do it with 2 outs, even though he's hitting over .330. Doesn't really drive the ball that well. Double power. 4 home runs.
4 home runs. Maybe a career high for Magadan. He is turning on the ball a little better this year than in years past. And
if you watch most of his at-bats, Steve, you will see that he almost always hits his pitch. You know, he'll make outs, but he does not swing at a lot of pitchers' pitches.
Pops this one up into short center field. Easy play. Butler has it. And the inning is over. 1 hit and 1 left in the 6th for New York. We have completed 6. 2-1 Giants.
Pittsburgh started the night with a 1.5 lead over the New York Mets. They're in Houston. Mike Scott to Jay Bell in the 3rd. This is solo home run as Eric Yeldon goes back on it, but can't catch up with it. It's gone. 2-0 is the lead. Pirates on top. If things stay the way they are, their lead would be back to 2.5. Let's get back to Steve and Jim.
Thank you, John. Pirates getting help from everybody. Jay Bell with the home run, and boy, I'll tell you what, they just seem to turn it on whenever the Mets get breathing down their necks. They start winning again.
Got that right-handed power hitter, Carmelo Martinez, that they've been looking for. At least, you know, more power than they had. We did some games. I thought they were a very, very well-balanced ball club. Had some pitching problems, but Barry Bonds having a great year. Bonilla, Sid Greenback, everybody. Ball club.
And a good manager in Jim Leland. Don Robinson has grounded to 3rd and struck out as he leads off the 7th inning. Then it'll be Brett Butler and Greg Litton against Frank Viola. The Giants leading 2-1. And a fastball that looked to be right in there. Viola just stood there and stared at Dana DeMuth, the home plate umpire. 3-1.
Well, that one common denominator all good managers have is communication. You know, even Lasorda, one thing he can do, among other things, is communicate.
Robinson fouls it off, and it's 3-2. Well, that was one of the problems that the players talked about here with Davy Johnson. Roger Craig appears to have very good rapport with his players. Sharply hit to third, and a good play by Jeffries, but he throws it away. Robinson won't go anywhere as Tuffle backs up on the play, and we'll see how they score it.
Well, it ought to be an error only because he had ample time to throw him out. Again, playing a new position, his flashed hit. It'll be the 10th. But the reason, and I'm not down on Greg Jeffries, he's moved over from second. But Don Robinson, knee surgery. He's got plenty of time, makes an off-balance throw. Now, it's a difficult play to knock the ball down. My question is, once he picks it up, he's got all kinds of time. You can see right there, but he just rushes the throw. A very difficult call for a scorekeeper. But, you know, once you knock it down, you've completed the first part of the play. Then the fact is, you know who's running, you pick it up, and you make a good throw.
Well, I agree with you. I would have scored at an error, but I'm not.
Yeah, we're not criticizing the scorekeeper. Former pitcher never ever wants that to be a base hit. No, I don't. Totally objective here today, Steve.
Yes, thank you.
Nice going, Don.
Totally objective from a pitcher's viewpoint.
I told you that Don Robinson could hit. What a leadoff hitter.
Perfect. Got on base.
Doesn't run well for a big guy, but
well, he's got the bases blocked up for Butler now.
That's right.
Butler is 3 for 3. He has a single to center, a bunt base hit, and an infield base hit. He has also scored a run.
See, Butler knows if he drops another bunt down, he can probably beat it out. The key is, can Robinson get the second before he gets the first?
Well, that's what the Mets infield might be thinking about. And Jeffries is a little farther in at third than he was when Butler bunted back in the third inning. Butler fouling it off, however.
You know, the way I look at it, if you're an average outfielder, you always play deeper because it's easier to come in. If you're a third baseman, you're moved over from second, and you're really new at that position, what do? You take the bunt away from him. Now, with 2 strikes, we'll move back a little bit. I want to cut that ball off that's headed for left field.
1 ball, 2 strikes to Butler. Robinson at first with nobody out, and the Giants already leading by 1. We're in the 7th inning. Two and two.
Of course, in this situation, you won't drop down one, but the good bunters, the Del Unsers, the Greg Grosses, the Rod Carews, 2 strikes. It would not impair their ability to bunt. They move back, third baseman moves back, he just doesn't make it quite as good, doesn't have to. Just trot down to first base.
Butler bunts well enough to do that, but with Robinson on first, it's a different situation. Strike called, and he's out of there. Strikeout number 6 for Viola, and 1 away in the 7th inning.
Frank pitching extremely well. The 10 hits are a little bit misleading. A lot of bleeders, loopers, bloopers. Key to Frank again. Good amount of strikeouts, only 1 walk. The bad news is his team only has 1 run on the board. He's given up 2. This goes back to what Mel Stottlemyre said. Couldn't have convinced him that he's lost 4 out of 5 if he hadn't seen. My goodness.
Well, Robinson will get down to second base easily now with 1 away.
Well, I got to believe that was a circle changeup. Just imagine taking your thumb and your forefinger, putting it together, hold the ball with your the last 3 fingers.
I mean, that's one that even the hometown Mets crowd is laughing about. I mean, that is as wild a wild pitch as you may ever see.
Now, if the score was 5-2 Mets, you'd walk off the mound and you tell your rookie catcher, give me a better target. But when you're down 2-1 and you just put another guy in scoring position, you can't joke about it.
No.
Something you'd laugh about.
Yeah.
You never see this.
I told you I wanted to throw it outside.
Right, but not that far outside. Sit a little bit over the plate. Let's see where Hundley's target is.
The difference between a 1-1 game and a 2-run game as we get into the 7th inning can be huge in the way each team would approach it. So Robinson, even though he does not run well, now in scoring position, changes a lot of things, and that's part of the reason why there's a little meeting on the mound right now. Litton tonight is 1 for 3. He had an infield base hit in the 5th inning.
Also, if you're Roger Craig, manager of the Giants, you're wondering, who am I going to bring in? Brantley's had some shoulder problems, some back problems. Here's the Mets. It's like Wally Whitehurst, I believe, the right-hander.
That's dark out there, isn't it?
That's right. That's where Strawberry hits him.
Into the night. 2 balls and no strikes to Litton. And he helps Viola out, chasing the change, and it's 2-1.
That 1 base hit, a BB right over the bag. So Gregg pretty much looking like he's looking for the changeup. He's going to give him the fastball. Try to just poke the ball to right field after striking out the second time up.
And the fastball up and in. 3-1.
You know, most of the time, Steve, you don't gamble. With Will Clark on deck, you play conservative baseball, but here you may, even though Clark put the Giants ahead with an RBI single, you may have to either make a perfect pitch to Litton, because you can't afford to give up that 3rd run. Puts you farther behind, and you may get taken out of the game. A little more license, of course, with a Frank Viola than a normal starting pitcher.
Oh, what a changeup. That ball just died, and it's 3-2.
Look at the arm, quick arm, and that's what Litton swings at. The ball just, as you said, tails away. Trying to wait back, head, bat, way out in front.
Almost, as you pointed out, as if Litton is looking for it, and he still can't hit it. Robinson at second, 1 out, and now a 3-2 count to Litton. Fouled off.
Well, a lot of batting coaches have the same thing that in common with Dizzy Dean. Dizzy Dean said you can't hit what you can't see. The batting instructor says if you don't keep your head in there, we saw Litton's head really down at third base, way out in front of the plate. How can you hit the ball? Got to keep the head on the ball. Try to keep your head back, your hands back, even if your body lunges forward.
If you keep your hands in the bat back, you still have a chance to make contact.
Yeah, you probably won't hit a home run, especially unless you're a big, strong guy like Kevin Mitchell, but you will make contact, and occasionally you can stay alive. It's 2 strikes. Sometimes that's what you want to do.
A slow high roller to third. Jeffries checks the runner and throws him out. Robinson holds at second now with 2 out.
First baseman, Will Clark.
So that'll bring up Will Clark, who drove in the Giants' first run with a 2-out base hit in the 5th.
Now what do you do? Mitchell on deck, 0 for 3. 2 grounders and a strikeout.
Well, on the surface, you look at it and you say, well, you got left-hander against left-hander. But we have to remember what we spoke of earlier about the style of pitching of Frank Viola and Will Clark's hitting zone. Maybe
last
there
year
isn't
Clark hit 450 with runners in scoring position just against lefties. I mean, those are phenomenal numbers. Almost hit 500.
This year he's hitting now well over 321 against left-handed pitching with his 2 hits and a walk tonight. But he grounds this one weakly, and it's a fair ball, and the inning is over. 1 hit and 1 left in the 7th inning for the Giants. They still lead, however, 2-1. 2-1 Giants over the Mets as we go to the bottom of the 7th inning here at Shea. Another big crowd on hand as the Mets always draw well. They consistently sell over 3 million tickets. Of course, in the National League, they only count people in the park, so the actual announced attendance is not always 3 million, but they keep coming, and if the Mets stay in contention, they could do 3 million again this year. Greg Jeffries leads off the 7th inning. He's 0 for 2. He's grounded out twice, and he fouls it back for strike 1. Don Robinson has pitched beautifully. He is out pitching Frank Viola tonight, and when you can do that, you're pitching a heck of a game.
I kind of expected it. That type of guy, and gets out of the first as he did early. Unscathed, he really has pitched well all year long.
1 ball, 1 strike.
Looks like he's got his shirt, his safety pin to his undergarment of some sort.
Well, one thing about Caveman, he's never worried too much about how he looks in the uniform.
Well, not exactly the GQ look.
Another foul outside third. And the count 1-2. Jeffries is in the top 10 in 6 different offensive categories in the National League, including being tied with Len Dykstra for the league lead in doubles with 34. So he's having a fine year offensively.
Well, you very rarely see him off balance. You know, he said that last year they pitched him in. He says he feels he has that covered. We'll see maybe with 1 and 2 as Robinson's been getting out the lefties all night inside.
Fly ball down the left field line. Mitchell has room and time. 1 away. Let's go to John Saunders for an update.
Greg Swindell at one point had a 4-0 lead against the Jays. It's 4-1. Luis Sojo, Candy Maldonado, and Alex Cole both give up on the ball. It rolls to the wall. Manny Lee comes in. Mookie Wilson follows him. That made it 4-3. Then Fred McGriff tied the game with a single. It's 4-4 now in the 5th. Back to Steve and Jim.
The Jays trying to hang in there behind the amazing Red Sox. And here's Darryl Strawberry, who takes high and away for ball 1. He can be the tower of power. Sharp hit and a base hit to center field.
Yeah, even when he gets jammed, he is so strong he can fight it off. If you want to pitch Darryl Strawberry consistently anywhere, he will get his base hits, but he won't hit a lot of home runs up and in. Out over the plate, that ball gets leveraged sometimes about 450.
So Darryl at first on his first hit of the night with 1 out, and Kevin McReynolds, who is 1 for 2, the hitter. McReynolds with a base hit to left field in the 2nd inning, and then he flied to center.
We made that comparison about Jose Canseco with Darryl Strawberry. Both of them can steal. Darryl with 15 steals. Canseco this year not running as much over the American League because of the back problem. But Darryl can beat you a lot of ways. The only difference I can see is that he's never ever proved that he could hit over 300 or even close to it.
McReynolds misses the high slider, and it's strike 1. McReynolds now has hit in 6 of his last 7 games, hitting over 350.
Type of hitter that can really put you ahead with 1 swing. He's that strong. I'm surprised Benjamin, the shortstop, not playing a little bit more to pull. They play him pretty much up the middle. Straight away in the outfield. Midfield back at double play depth.
Benjamin obviously looking for the double play, cheating towards second, but he may be.
Yeah. You know, at this point, you want to make sure you get 1. You'd like to turn a double play. Maybe that means they're going to just throw him fastballs away. That indicates that to me. We'll see what happens.
Strawberry running on a pitch out. Carter bounces it in there, but they get him.
Eighth time. Roger Craig saying we are happy with Gary Carter. He's throwing better. The fact that he did not play much last year. And this is a pitch out. Good pitch out from Don Robinson. Not a good throw. I think he was safe. Doesn't look like he got under it. Benjamin making the tag, but it looked like he got him up on the leg. Good throw would have had him by a mile.
And McReynolds grounds one off the end of the bat to Robbie Thompson, and the inning is over. 1 hit, the caught stealing, so nobody left in the 7th for New York. We go to the 8th with a 2-1 Giant lead.
ESPN Baseball Tonight, brought to you by Sterling. See your Sterling dealer about 0% APR financing or leasing with no charge maintenance included. By AT&T, the right choice. By Thompson's, the first name in lasting protection. And by Pizza Hut, home of pan pizza that's winning the hearts of America. Pizza Hut, making it great.
Seventh inning is completed. We go to the top of the eighth inning with the Giants leading 2-1 and Kevin Mitchell leading it off for San Francisco, and he takes a strike. Mitchell 0 for 3 has struck out swinging, grounded into a force play, and grounded to second. Deep to left. McReynolds can only watch. It's out of here in a hurry. Number 31 for Kevin Mitchell, and it is 3-1 San Francisco.
Look at the legs. Look at the size of his legs. This ball was pulverized. Change up, belt high. We saw what Viola can do to you when he makes good pitches. We saw what Mitchell can do to you when you make a mistake. I mean, McReynolds just turned his back and watched it.
That ball may be flat on one side permanently. I mean, that was hit right on the money.
Dusty Baker, Clark saying, congratulations on the new contract. It's number 1.
Number 1 of the new deal.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Mitchell leads off to give the Giants a 2-run lead now in the 8th inning, and it could turn out to be a huge run, especially the way Don Robinson has pitched. Matt Williams, who homered his last time up, 1 for 3, and he takes inside 2-1.
Just remember that number 13 and 35 when they don't do this right here. Change up. Back in 1984, actually 1985, saw Mitchell hit a couple of home runs off John Tudor.
Grounded to third. Jeffries gets Williams by half a step, 1 away.
The point is that they were like the second and third times. He makes adjustments so well. When you can hit 31 home runs and hit over 300, you deserve the kind of contract that Kevin Mitchell had.
All you have to do is look around baseball and see how many players today do that, and you can count them on your fingers in both leagues. Gary Carter, 1 for 3.
Excuse me, but what they like so much about him, also he shows up and plays hurt when he has to. Started talking about having wrist surgery, the bone spur in his wrist that's bothered him over the last couple of years. Knee problems last year, back problems, and yet Kevin shows up and Roger Craig can write his name into the lineup.
Carter waits on the change, but still pulls it foul. Strike 2. You look at Kevin Mitchell and you wonder how he could ever be hurt. You could take a sledgehammer to that body and you wouldn't think you'd hurt anything. The nickname that the Mets gave him, one of the many nicknames when he played for the Mets, was 747, because he's built like one.
Boy, really maximize the way he uses his lower body.
And he's got a lot to use. Carter pops it up. Howard Johnson out on the grass. 2 away.
Well, the Mets have come from behind to win 28 times. They'll have to do it again tonight. All Viola can do is hope that 3 runs is not going to beat him. He's pitched well, but it's so far right there. The guy just came through our screen. Don Robinson's pitched a little bit better.
2 out, nobody on for Robbie Thompson, who is 1 for 3 with an infield base hit in the 6th. Ball 1.
Well, to me, Kevin Mitchell, it really comes from the old school where guys use big bats and they're strong enough to swing them, versus most theories now they're going to try to increase their bat speed. So what they'll do is get a real light bat and try to swing it harder. When you try to swing harder, that usually means your mechanics are messed up. Mitchell it's kind of like Dick Allen.
Oh man, he used to use a telephone pole.
Right, and he'd wrap it, and then when he got the bat on it, the result was a good one.
Mitchell now tied with Ryan Sandberg for the National League lead. Rhino hit his 31st yesterday. Bobby Bonilla just won back at 30. Johnson cuts the ball off the middle and throws him out. The home run by Mitchell leading off the inning makes it a 3-1 Giant lead.
It's California.
Yeah, they're having fun at the ballpark. Little Isley brothers from the mid-60s between innings, and those kids who weren't even born then were boogieing to it nonetheless. Don Robinson's having some fun. He's leading 3-1 going to the bottom of the 8th inning. Howard Johnson will lead it off for the Mets.
Mets down by 2 runs. Matt Williams creeping in at third. In this case, Hojo wants to think bunt.
Hojo runs well enough to do it, but he takes a strike. Tonight he's 0 for 2. He is grounded to short and flied to left.
A 1-run ball game be a silly play. But down by 2, if you can get on. Jim Tuffle already homered on deck. You got to do that.
A breaking ball high and away, 1-1.
There's some word that Tommy Herr, who came over in a trade from the Philadelphia Phillies, would be here by about the 5th inning. We don't know. There's really no way of knowing that. Bud Harrelson talking about how he's going to use Tommy Herr. He said, I will lead him off. Matt Maggot in second. Greg Jeffries with that third. And we hope that Strawberry has a good last month. Very helpful if you're a Met fan.
Yes. Inside to Hojo, 2-1.
Yeah, Terry Kennedy talking about the cut fastball, and that's just a little pressure on your middle finger, and it makes the fastball just kind of veer into lefties from right-handed pitchers and away from righties. He said when left-handed hitters like Howard Johnson started waffling, and he said that's the cut fastball that doesn't cut.
Check swing, roller. Robinson off in a hurry, gets him. Operations and all, Robinson still able to make the play and made it well, one away.
And if he didn't right there to make it was Matt Williams. Wet infield, bad knees. Get to the ball as quickly as you can and set yourself. That's what he does. Especially pretty cat-like. Right there. Sets. A little crow hop off his back leg. Good strong throw for the first out.
Johnson now 0 for 3, and it brings up Tuffle, who has accounted for the only New York run with a leadoff home run in the 3rd inning. Strike 1.
You got to like Don Robinson's theory of pitching. Even last time, Tuffle, after the home run flew out, he went right after it. Instead of getting the ball in the inside half, he just threw him a high fastball. He flied to center field. A whole lot of deception.
Big curveball, but it's too high. 1-1. Tom O'Malley is out on deck as Todd Hundley is the next scheduled hitter for New York. High and away to Tuffle, 2-1. 1 out, nobody on. Bottom of the 8th inning. Robinson and the Giants with a 2-run lead.
I got to think he'll throw it. They press for the outside middle and hope that Tuffle doesn't hit it too well. If he does hit it hard, he hopes he keeps it in the ballpark.
Tuffle took a big cut but fouled it back, and it's 2-2. Tuffle was going to hit it hard.
Yes, he was trying to.
Well, when Tom Herr gets here, maybe he can go across the road to the U.S. Tennis Center and play tennis against Stephanie He. I think Tom Herr and Stephanie He would be a nice match, don't you?
She got beat by the other Herr last night.
Well, then she can play her.
Capriati.
Her to he and he to her.
Right, yes.
And they could both maybe serve to him. I guess I've totally lost it.
Where are those airplanes? We need them.
That's a good point. There are no airplanes because of the U.S. Open. Only the U.S. Open can change the landing and takeoff pattern at LaGuardia. Tuffle with a swing and a miss at a ball in the dirt. And he's down on strikes for out number 2. Let's get an update again from John Saunders.
Jays all the way back from down 4-0. Here's Swindell to Mark Whitten back up the middle. Glenn Allen Hill was on third, so he scores easily. And the Jays, who were down 4-0, lead it 5-4 in the 6th. Back to Stephen Chen.
Toronto in a position now where they just have to keep winning the way the Red Sox are going.
Put themselves in a huge hole. You know, but I don't know. I always thought that they're the type of ball club that Underachievers don't play well till they really get focused. Well, maybe Cito Gaston has got them focused. You got one more month. The only way they will get healthy. We'll look at Mackey Sasser coming up to hit. And he's got a very, very bad right ankle as if the Red Sox falter. They've been playing so well, even though people figured not enough power. The pitching staff will never hold up. And it just kept going.
And amazingly so. It seems, as we said the other night, that sometimes they're doing it with mirrors. Sasser's ankle is such that he just cannot catch, and so Doc Edwards, who handles the catchers for the Mets, and manager Bud Harrelson have decided they're just going to rest Mackey for a while and keep him out of the lineup in an effort to get it healed for when they're really going to need him. But he is pinch hitting, and as a pinch hitter, he's 5 for 19. A drive to center, but Butler will get there, and the inning is over. The Mets go in order in the 8th, and we go to the 9th with San Francisco leading New York 3-1. The Budweiser storyline is pitching and some home runs tonight. Williams and Mitchell, the difference in the game, they're 2 solo home runs for the Giants, and the pitching of Don Robinson, even though Frank Viola has pitched very well. Robinson, as you see, has thrown only 81 pitches through 8 innings of work, and that's an amazingly low total.
What a contrast to last night. Sid Fernandez just pitching so well, struck out 12 in 7 innings, but threw about 119. So Viola with more strikeouts. He's been hurt by the solo home run. They tell you if you're going to throw them with nobody on base. They also tell you if you're going to throw 2 of them and also give up an RBI single to Clark, your team better be at 4 or 5 runs if you want to be successful.
Yes, but how do you say, okay, no one's on base, I can go ahead and throw one now?
Well, I think it's just your approach.
Yeah, that's right. You don't want to be. You want to. You can be more challenging.
Don't you know what the sign is
for a home run?
Yeah.
What's the sign for?
Well, Mel Stottlemyre just points to left, right, or center. It's kind of like Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
It's that kind of theory.
Okay. Call
now is
shot.
the time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Get him overconfident.
Mike Benjamin leading off is 0 for 3. 2 balls, 1 strike. And he fouls it back. It's 2-2. Benjamin, and then Don Robinson, the pitcher, and then the top of the order, Brett Butler, in the top of the 9th against Frank Viola.
I mean, Frank has only thrown 10 home runs this year.
2 of them tonight.
2 of them tonight. And then with 8.
Ground ball, took a bad hop, but Johnson stayed with it for out number 1.
Play on our inside the numbers. Viola throwing now 10 home runs in roughly 190 some innings. All hit sharply, but again having to reach for it. Oh, the footwork. Oh, Joe, that's why he can play anywhere. Shortstop, third. But Don Robinson, even though he's outpitched Frank tonight, he's given up 16 home runs now in only about 135 innings. Until tonight, he's being hurt much more by the home run.
And Viola continues to struggle in the month of August. This is the only losing month that he has had this season. He's 2-4 right now, and in danger of falling to 2-5 in August on the final day of the month. One ball, 2 strikes to Don Robinson.
He did get hammered around a little bit, gave up 6 runs and 7 runs back at the beginning of the month. The rest of the time, he has pitched pretty well. 1 run, 2 runs, and 3 runs. And now 3 runs. So that's 4. His last 4 starts. The most runs he's given up is 3. Yet he has failed. Well, he did win one of them. Won 4-1.
Off the end of the bat, Viola makes the play. 2 away. Well, a reminder that the pennant races may be heating up, but football is with us. And on ESPN, the season premiere of the College Football Association football action begins tomorrow. A doubleheader, Texas A&M at Hawaii at 4 Eastern, and then Baylor against Nebraska at 7:30 tomorrow night. CFA football doubleheader here on ESPN. Two out, nobody on. And Brett Butler, the hitter, who is 3 for 4. Ball one. Butler has hit over 380 now in his last 13 games. And he's trying to bunt his way on again, but this is not a good one, and Viola takes care of it. The Giants are down in order in the 9th inning. And we go to the bottom of the 9th with the Mets trailing by 2. Bottom of the 9th inning, and the Giants lead the Mets 3-1 as the Mets try to pull it out in the last of the last. A reminder, game 2 of our Friday night Major League Baseball doubleheader, Texas at Oakland. Bob Welch on the mound for the Athletics, and of course Willie McGee and Harold Baines have joined the A's for tonight's game. Tom O'Malley pinch hits for Frank Viola and leads off the 9th inning against Don Robinson. O'Malley hitting 156 as a pinch hitter, 235 overall. Then it'll be Darrell Boston and Dave Magnan, and the Mets are trying to get at least a base runner to get that tying run to the plate. Mike Kingery into the game in right field for the Giants defensively, replacing Greg Litton.
He's their best right fielder. Talked about Kevin Bass out on rehab. He'll be back maybe as soon as the beginning of next week.
And now it's 2-1 to O'Malley.
One of the decisions, even though that's been changed because of the Tommy Herr trade, is that the fact that Tim Tuffle was going to be the regular second base, then because of the fact that O'Malley on the West Coast trip where the Mets didn't score a lot of runs, some key at bats where he did not deliver. See if he can do it here.
Should be an easy play for Mitchell in left field. One away. Tonight's copyrighted telecast is being presented with the authority of Major League Baseball, and it may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without what?
Oh, without the written consent of Major League Baseball. Of course, that has to be the express written consent,
as opposed to the non-express written consent.
Sure. So be expressive.
Yes, right.
Letter form would be appreciated.
Yes, yeah, typed and signed.
Computer, laser printer.
Don't even do it. Forget it. Darrell Boston, the hitter. Boston tonight 2 for 3 with a single to left in the first, a single to center in the 6th. The Mets have but 6 hits tonight against Don Robinson. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Oh, what a blessing he has been coming over from the White Sox, Darrell Boston. Of course, the knock against Darrell, even though he's hit 8 home runs, is he's such a big guy. They'd like the year. Look at him. You say maybe 20 or 25 home runs, but he is not a home run hitter. He can hit home runs, but front foot hitter, slices the ball as we've seen a couple of times tonight. Left field reminds me a little bit of Pat Kelly early in his career.
Well, what he really has is the Charlie Lau, Walt Reniak approach, having played with the White Sox. Reniak, formerly the hitting instructor at Boston, now the hitting instructor for the White Sox. And you're just not going to generate the same kind of power with that hitting approach that you would if you hit off your back foot.
Yeah, it's a contact approach. Doesn't mean you can't hit home runs.
No, George Brett certainly has hit that way for many years.
Ron Kittle, who is now an Oriole, but he's a home run hitter.
Boston down on strikes, and Don Robinson does not appear to be losing anything here in the 9th inning. Remember, we told you he has not thrown that many pitches. He was at 90 miles an hour with that pitch.
We don't know what kind of radar gun it is, but 90, whether it's 87, if it's one of those slower guns or faster guns or whatever, when you throw it on the corner, and he's kept the ball out of the middle of the plate, with the exception of a home run to Tuffle just about all night long. Occasional curveball and an occasional split finger.
Magadan with a line drive by Thompson and a base hit to right field. So the Mets will have the opportunity to at least bring the tying run to the plate with 2 out in the bottom of the 9th inning.
Well, if you're not a .330 hitter, if you sit on the bench and don't pay attention. Magadan, knowing that Robinson has come after him all night long, gets a good pitch to hit, and he sets it up for Greg Jeffries.
Jeffries is 0 for 3. He has grounded out twice and flied to left. And the Mets have come from behind 28 times in their 73 wins. Jeffries with a drive to right center that's going to go for extra bases. Magadan doesn't run well, and he's going to be sent home. The relay will not happen, and Magadan comes in to score, and it's a one-run game.
Roger Craig, you do not have a left-hander in the bullpen to face Darryl Strawberry. Your bullpen at best is limping. There's Dave Magadan, made it 3-2 as he singled and scored on Jeffries' double. Roger Craig, there's like a split-finger fastball, hoping to get it down. He didn't. Up the gap for a double. And this will bring Roger Craig to the mound as Magadan scores his second run, tying run. You're looking at him right at second base.
Jeffries showing that intensity that he brings with him to the ballpark every night, and it stays all night long. Robinson will be denied at least the complete game. He has 3 complete games this year as he leaves after 8 2/3 with Darryl Strawberry coming to the mound and the tying run at second. Steve Bedrosian will relieve him, and we'll be back for the drama right after this. The crowd will boo as Darryl Strawberry will be intentionally walked with first base open as Steve Bedrosian has come on to relieve, and the Tower of Power will not get an opportunity to display any, as he did last night in the 8th inning when he hit a tremendous grand slam home run. Kevin McReynolds will be the hitter once Strawberry is walked.
Atley Hammaker released by the Giants, so you're not going to have lefty versus lefty. You make a percentage move if you're Roger Craig. What did he do in the All-Star game? He pitched around somebody else to get to Boggs, I guess. Or no, pitched to, he didn't pitch to Boggs. I wouldn't either. To get to Canseco, which you're hitting about a guy that usually hits 353 lifetime batting average. So Buddy Harrelson hoping that this doesn't work. If you're Roger Craig, you're hoping that Bedrock will be able to get out Kevin McReynolds.
First thing on the minds of the Giants is don't let Jeffries score from second and tie this game up. The infielders will be trying to knock balls down.
Because now that you've put the winning run at first, that's another primary concern.
That's the secondary concern.
Well, that might even be under the overriding. I mean, you make a great point. If you're an infielder, you want to knock the ball down, keep it in, because maybe Jeffries, even though he runs well, will not score. But you also don't want Strawberry to score because the game is over. The game continues if they just tie it up. Winning run scores. Nada. You're out of there.
Foul back, and it's out of play. 1 ball, 2 strikes to McReynolds, 2 out, and runners at first and second. Bedrosian is 6-7 with 10 saves this year.
Yeah, he's pitched real well in his last 9 games. He's 3 for 3 in his last 3 save opportunities. Brantley has been the stopper most of the year. They've gone back to Bedrosian.
McReynolds with a base hit to center field. Jeffries will tie the game.
Told you, streak hitter can't be any more fortunate to hit it up the middle. You saw Benjamin try to knock it down, as Steve Zabriskie told you. So the gamble does not pay off.
And Bedrosian will now have to face Howard Johnson with Strawberry at third, carrying the winning run as everybody is up at Shea.
And they're going to play behind McReynolds at first. I think he's got to go to second. Because either way, you're going to make your pitch here. You put more pressure on the defense. Take away the force.
Johnson with a looper down the right field line. Kingery coming. Can't get it.
Their nickname, the Amazing Mets.
For the 29th time this year, New York comes from behind. They score 3 runs in the bottom of the 9th to win it 4-3.
Early in the year, Frank Cashin, the general manager, was saying, you know, things aren't going well. He said, we win 3 in a row, they'll be ordering their World Series tickets. What happens when they do it like they did it tonight? It almost makes you forget about the U.S. Open across the road.
Well, nobody in this ballpark is thinking about it, I'm sure. I'll tell you who's thinking about it. The Pittsburgh Pirates in Houston. Their game about an hour behind this one. And with September 1st looming on the horizon tomorrow, you know, with a game and a half separating the 2 teams starting play tonight, the Pirates right now know that the Mets have come from behind to win this game.
Game winner, did not hit it well. In fact, he hit it just bad enough that the defensive replacement, Mike Kingery, cannot get it. Howard Johnson has seen it fall. Kingery making a tremendous effort, just coming up short in right field. Mike Covich, who's also the batting instructor.
Bedrosian can't believe what's happened. He came into the game, issued an intentional walk. Then McReynolds a base hit to center, and Howard Johnson the bloop game-winning hit to right field. With 2 out in the bottom of the 9th, the Mets rally with 3 runs to win it 4-3, and at this moment are 1 game behind the Pittsburgh Pirates in the National League East. The Giants dealt another devastating blow as their hopes to catch the Cincinnati Reds continue to fade. So long from Shea Stadium. This is Steve Zabriskie for Jim Palmer saying goodbye and sending you back to the studio and John Saunders.
Thanks a lot, Steve and Jim. 4-3 is the final. As you said, the Giants in trouble now. 8.5 games. They remain behind the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds were losers this afternoon. The Mets at the moment, 1 game behind the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates are down. It would be just a half game should the Pirates lose that game. The Pirates rather up to the Houston Astros. It would be just a half game, though, should Houston come back and beat Pittsburgh in that game. Now, we want to remind you, we still have the second half of our doubleheader to come. The Texas Rangers at the Oakland A's, the new Oakland A's, if you want to call them. Harold Baines is there, Willie McGee as well. Bob Welch looking for his 22nd victory of the year. Goes against Jamie Warner, who was 1-5 on the season. Gary Thorne and Norm Histas will be a bye with that game in a moment. But first, we want to get you updated on the pennant races. And we'll start with the Pittsburgh Pirates, who have to be watching the scoreboard in Houston to see that the New York Mets put 3 on the board in the 9th inning to come from behind down 3-1 and beat San Francisco. Carmelo Martinez rooting for his new teammates in the Dome. Barry Bonds having a super year, shows some hustle. Turns the routine single as it bounces in there into a double. The ball hung up in the air long enough. Franklin Stubbs' throw not in time. Hustle pays off. Bonds scores on Lavallier's single to right to give Pittsburgh the lead 1-0. Top of the 3rd, Mike Scott facing Jay Bell. And Bell just crushes this ball to straightaway center field. Yeldon goes back on it, but runs out of real estate. It's Bell's 6th home run of the year, and Pittsburgh leads it 2-0. That's where they stand. Zane Smith has won 3 games, lost none since coming over in the trade from Montreal. He would win his 4th. Right now up 2-0 in the 7th inning. Zane Smith looking for his 10th victory of the year. Meantime, the Dodgers at the Montreal Expos. Dodgers with a chance. Reds Cubs first. This played this afternoon. Hal Morris loses the bat here as it flies into the dugout. Paul O'Neill facing Harkey here. This goes to left center. 15th home run of the year. 1-0 for the Reds. Starter Norm Charlton. No hitter through 5. Is this a base hit? They call it that way, a single. Charlton says, come on, it's got to be an error. Top of the 7th, 2-out runner on 3rd. Todd Benzinger rips one to 2nd. Sandberg makes a diving play. throws to end the threat, a key play. Now in the 9th, the Hawk, Andre Dawson, loops it up there off Myers. O'Neal loses it in the sun. Dawson's pinch runner will be Curtis Wilkerson, would score later on Salazar's single. Then with the game tied at 3, bases loaded. Joe Girardi up the middle. Dwight Smith scores, and the Cubs win it 4-3. Mike Harkey pitched 8 innings, allowing 6 hits. Bill Long pitched a scoreless inning to improve his record to 6-0. Norm Charlton pitching 6 innings, allowing only 2 hits, 2 runs. He struck out 4. Randy Myers lasting only a third of an inning, yielding 4 hits, 2 runs. He's 3-4. In Cincinnati also picked up Billy Dorn, the second baseman, for 2 minor leaguers sent to Houston. Now the Dodgers and the Expos playing tonight in Montreal. Expos have been singing the blues lately. Navholz trips over as he can't find the plate, falls over his own feet. Then the wild pitch sets up a Dodgers run. Buck Rogers says, I'm going to stick with the youngster. Good move to first, and Mike Sharpison is picked off. They get him down at second as he tries to outrun the baseball. No chance. In the 4th, though, Kirk Gibson gets caught leaning. He's picked off as well. 1-0 Dodgers in the 4th. Expos with men on 2nd and 3rd. Delino DeShields rips a single up the middle off Morgan. Jerry Goff comes in. Spike Owen as well. 2-1 Montreal. They would add to the lead. DeShields has 2 runs batted in for Montreal. Navholz trying to go 3-0 on the season. Los Angeles has won 5 consecutive games. Crawling back into it, it's now 4-2. Tim Burke came in for Montreal. He couldn't get the job done. Don Ossie is now in for Los Angeles. Fry in for Montreal in the 8th inning. The Boston Red Sox, leaders in the American League East, had won 7 consecutive games. Their lead in the East had gone to 6.5 over the Toronto Blue Jays, who had stumbled after Boston went into Skydome and won 3 out of 4, 3 all-on shutouts. Tonight, Boston facing the Yankees. In the 3rd, it's 1-0. Velarde with the 2-run home run off Harrison scores. Serrano is aboard. 2-1 Yankees take the lead. Evans had a home run earlier for Boston. In the 4th, bases loaded. Tony Pena with a base hit to left. Mike Greenwell comes in and ties the game at 2 apiece. Ren Rivera with the grounder to short. Yankees get the force at 2nd, but Evans scores and Sox lead 3-2. Stump Merrill knows he's in trouble. Luis Rivera with a grand slam then. Bases are full, and he comes up and just yanks this one to left field. 7-2 as it heads towards and over top of the Green Monster. Boston on a roll, looking for their 8th victory of the year. Harris at one point retired 17 consecutive New York Yankees. Rivera has 5 runs batted in for Boston. Boston also picked up right-handed pitcher Larry Anderson from the Houston Astros in a trade today for a minor leaguer. Meantime, the Blue Jays need of a victory badly, and the Jays would fall down in this one. 4th inning, David Wells with the bases loaded. This one is pulled out by Fermin into the corner. Chris James comes in to score. Corey Snyder scores. Sandy Alomar follows him. Then the throw gets away, so Fermin says, I'm coming home too. And the Tribe is up 4-0 for Swindell. But Swindell starts to get into trouble. Luis Sojo lost this ball out to left center field. Webster Maldonado can't get to it. Glenn Allen Hill comes in to score. Mookie Wilson as well, and the Jays would tie it later at 4-4. Mark Whitten singles up the middle, scored Glenn Allen Hill, 5-4 for the Blue Jays, and the Jays were not done. Luis Sojo would then have a 3-run home run. He has 5 runs batted in for Toronto. The Jays had lost 8 of their last 10. Felix Fermin with 3 runs batted in for Cleveland. Should the Jays win and the Boston Red Sox hang on to win, which is the way it looks as things will finish tonight, the Jays would remain 6.5 games behind the Boston Red Sox in the American League East. Stay with us. There's more to come. We're between games. The second half of our doubleheader on baseball tonight's Friday night coming your way in just a moment. The Oakland A's and the Texas Rangers. But the final, the New York Mets with 3 runs in the 9th inning, down 3-1, come back to beat San Francisco 4-3. Back with more in a moment.
Pitch and commit 2 throwing errors in losing to Oakland last night. You could easily tell that something wasn't quite right with the Rocket. He did have a blister problem last night, but apparently that was not the cause of his wildness. Today, Roger Clemens underwent an MRI treatment for his right shoulder at the UMass Medical Center in Worcester, Massachusetts. They focused specifically on the front of the shoulder, looking for a muscle tear. They also focused on, they were on the lookout for a muscle strain or signs of tendinitis, but so far there has been no result has been made public of that MRI. There obviously is the possibility that Clemens could be lost for the season if there is a tear in that shoulder.
Bobby Thigpen's role in holding together a young White Sox staff makes him a surefire top 10 MVP candidate. But let's not get carried away with this record. It's a little bit like an attendance mark, with no historic base for comparison. The record's been broken 3 times in 7 years. John Hiller's mark of 38 stood from 1973 to 83, and it's been topped a dozen times since. The White Sox get the lead, they use Thigpen. No Chicago starter has a complete game victory in which they've won by less than 4 runs. Now, the league average after the 7th inning with a 1 to 4 run lead is to win 90% of the time. The White Sox record, 91% of the time. Big difference. The injury of the week belongs to Minnesota's Gene Larkin, who while doing stretching exercises with a medicine ball, lost his balance, jammed his fingers, and is out for a few days. And this is the guy who's the first major league first baseman for Columbia since Lou Gehrig. Larry Doty's losing battle with the waiver wire will probably cost him his Pirates general manager's job if they don't finish first. Lee Thomas did him a favor by giving him Carmelo Martinez for a 3rd prospect, reportedly pitcher Mike York, when the Phillies claimed Wes Chamberlain, another kid, because Doty inadvertently put them both on irrevocable waivers. But the Phillies were only 4th on the waiver claim list. How could the Astros, Braves, and Cardinals all have passed on Chamberlain? And to make it worse, at the time, the Astros were trying to trade for Chamberlain and didn't even put in a claim. It may seem hard to someone from Montana to believe that anyone in New York could be underrated, but what about John Franco and Howard Johnson? Going into this Pirates series, Franco has as many saves as Dennis Eckersley over the last 3 years, with only 2 more opportunities, and this season with virtually no setup men. As for Hojo, he's taken his extraordinary athletic ability over to shortstop and did a terrific job filling in for Kevin Elster. Such a good job. They're talking about keeping him there and forgetting about Elster next season. The last 3 years, all they've tried to do is trade Howard Johnson for Dale Murphy, for Danny Tartabull, for Mark Langston, and all Hojo is indispensable. This is Peter Gammons, ESPN.